Broadcasting from their world headquarters in Texas, it's the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show, the show that discusses arcade repair, restoration, news, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tim and Jonathan.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 91 of the Arcade Repair Tips Live Show for September 2024. My name is Jonathan Leung. I'm the producer, director, and editor here at the Arcade Repair Tips video series. And joining me today as always is Mr. Arcade Repair Tips himself, Tim Peterson. Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's hard to believe it's September.
I think we have something on the camera. Hang on. Okay, we're good.
It's hard to believe it's September already.
I
mean,
know.
it's like, really, September? Wait, October's next. We're almost at the end of the year. I don't know where this summer just kind of flew by.
Well, I'm glad that it's been a mild summer around here. I feel like as far as heat goes, we didn't get as bad as some. Now, that's here in Texas. I think it looked like the western part of the United States maybe got a little bit more heat than we did, which is very unusual because typically we're super duper duper hot. But Tim, it's been nice to have like temperatures in the high 80s and low 60s or mid 60s in the mornings. So.
Yeah, it's not been too bad lately, and a little bit of rain here and there. So definitely, just... It's like somebody said, don't get too excited over September. You know it's still going to be hot all month long here. But I'm looking forward to, got a trip going to Illinois in a week, and I've been promised they're going to have some lower temperatures up there, but we'll see.
Okay, well.
I think they've actually had a hotter summer for them, but it's starting to cool off there.
Right. The big thing around here is we've gotten a lot of rain, and that's really kept the temperatures down, which is
Yeah.
nice. And so we hope that it's nice wherever you are at this evening as we continue on with our live shows, Tim. And here we are with episode 91, like you said, for September. So we want to remind you guys that if you're watching this live, you can interact with us during the show in the live chat. So far, Tim, it's kind of quiet over there on the live chat side, but hopefully that'll pick up as we go through the show. Tim, we're actually starting on time. And last month we had like a 30-minute delay or something.
That's what I said. Somebody's driving. They're like, they're not going to start till later anyway. They're so used to us not being on time. But so it's why it's called a live show, right? There's always some stuff can come up, but we're glad to be started on time. And glad that you're here, the ones that have joined us already.
Absolutely. And Tim, it's a big kickoff for NFL tonight. We know that as well. What is it, Chiefs-Eagles, I think, on NBC tonight. So if you're an NFL fan, I'm sure we'll be talking some NFL in the after show here after the main live show. Yeah. But Tim, let's go ahead and talk about some arcade stuff, right?
Sure.
Before we do have one message in the live chat from Robbie J. It says, hi, Tim and Jonathan. So
hello.
Hi, Robbie.
What's
How's
up,
it going?
Robbie? Mm-hmm.
So... But I think everything else for right now is caught up. So we'll just go ahead and move into the questions. So, I mean, if you, if anybody else has questions, of course, like I said, hit us up in the live chat. Let us know as we continue on through the show. But our first question this month, Tim, is from Josh. And Josh says, hello, I hope this email finds you well, I guess.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the well, but
well,
it did find us. Maybe that's it. It did find us. I have an old arcade with a Wells Gardner U3000 in it. And the vertical size is very small, maybe 4 inches tall total. I attempted to adjust the vertical size and it does nothing. I checked the pot with an ohm meter and it works at 100k ohms. I was wondering if a cap kit would fix this issue. I don't know what else to try. Thanks, Josh from Missouri. And Tim, we always like it when you put your location in there because it gives us a nice reminder of where people are from. We get questions all over the United States and from all over the world. And so to hear somebody from Missouri, Tim, that's a nice place to be as well. And it's not too far a drive actually from Texas if you want to go up there.
I'll actually be, when I'm in Illinois, I'll be really close to St. Louis, so not too far.
So here we have Josh here, Tim, with this particular question about a U3000 Wells Gardner monitor, and he's saying it's only about 4 inches high. So he's got, here's my screen,
squished.
right? It's kind of squished in, and so he's wondering what he can do in order to solve the issue. He is asking, would a cap kit help? And so I'll throw that to you. Would a cap kit help?
More than likely, yes, because this is what we call vertical collapse. In fact, it's not going to get better; it'll just get worse.
Sure.
And so. The shotgun approach is a okay thing to do at this time because if you just fixed a couple caps, then they're all getting pretty old. He started off by saying, I've got an old game.
Right.
Well, a U3000 doesn't even sound that old to me, Jonathan, but it's not new either. So, some of the monitors we work on are much older than that. So, yeah, when it starts to collapse like that, sometimes a cap kit would greatly help that. And in fact, there's some specific caps and everything that are in that section of the monitor that control that. But it's a good thing to just do a cap kit overall. You'll get good fresh caps in there. It's really good practice for you. Not too hard on a skill level. We always say it's just maybe the little bit more than a beginner, but not really high advanced. In fact, if you've never done a repair, you should watch our video on how to do it. We didn't know much about it at all when we first started, John. We've repaired a lot of them. It takes a little practice. Just make sure you take your time and that you get the caps in the right direction and so forth. But I think that there's a good troubleshooting guide that you're going to share with them. But if he wants to narrow down, what I used to like to do was, even though, let's say I was working on a vertical collapse, I would try to repair that area first and then try it. Just see what it looked like.
Sure.
Because sometimes I'll be a little lazy. I'm like, you know what? Looks really good. It's fixed. I'm going to go on. Or I just wanted to get my game back up and playing, and then I would come back and do the rest of the cap kit but a lot of times while you're there, you might as well just do it.
Absolutely. So exactly what Tim mentioned. We've had problems with U3000s before, installed cap kits, and they end up working perfectly. In fact, I've had this exact same issue with the Tekken over there, where I was getting kind of a squished down Tekken. The characters are like this big, and the whole screen was kind of squished like what you're describing here, Josh. And a cap kit did solve the issue. With that said, you really want to check the 600 section on the monitor chassis for the U3000. That is the vertical section of that monitor, and so all of the parts there are what you want to check out. And like Tim mentioned, the troubleshooting guide actually talks about this issue. Also mentions some transistors, resistors, and an IC that you can check as well. And Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw that up here so everybody can see it here. So it sounds like you're experiencing a bit of collapse on your screen. A cap kit can help with this type of partial collapse. We definitely recommend installing one if the caps have not been replaced in a while. With that said, collapse issues like this are typically caused by an issue in the vertical section of the monitor. On the U3000, this would be the parts in the 600 section. Specifically check Q602, 603, 600, and then R628. The Qs, Tim, are transistors, the Rs are resistors, and then there's an IC U600 that is just an IC that you can check as well. And there's a great troubleshooting guide. That's where those come from for the U3000 that we highly recommend. Tim, I have the link here on the screen and also down below in the show notes for you, Josh. So you just click on that. That comes from text files. It has a lot of different information, but also talks about vertical collapse issues and how those can be, and even partial collapse, and how those parts can definitely help with this kind of troubleshooting, with troubleshooting this issue. Tim, is there anything else that you have for Josh before we move on?
I would just reiterate that, yes, while you're, specifically, he knows what the problem is.
Sure.
And so a cap kit in general might fix it, but I would, exactly what you're suggesting, John, or that you put in the notes there, is to replace that resistor and that IC chip too while you're there. That won't take an extra 5 minutes. And that generally what happens is when the caps are going bad, they cause problems elsewhere. So it's not collapsed completely yet, but I would go ahead and do all of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a good tip, Tim, because really what it comes down to is that we're going to have the monitor out anyway. Let's at least check those. Okay, check the transistors, resistor, and the IC to make sure that they are working properly, and replace as needed. And a cap kit, again, is never a bad idea, especially since we have the monitor out already. So, Josh, hopefully that answers your question, and good luck getting your U3000 Wells Gardner monitor back in shape. Tim, we have something over here. And maybe Josh that we just got from. He says, "Hey guys, I'm watching for the advice. My arcade's been in storage for a few years, and I want to get it back up and running." Okay, well there you go. I don't know if it's the same Josh, Tim.
Right.
I forget, but if it is, we just answered your question. That's good. If not, hopefully you learned a little something from the other Josh's question. Yeah. So it kind of works out in both ways. But we're glad to have you here.
Let us know what game you're talking about. That would be fun to know. Bringing one back to life is just, to me, is one of the thrills. Because a lot of times it's set in storage and nobody's played it. And, that's why part of our slogan is to fix the game to play the game. Absolutely. We don't just want to fix them to look at them. We want to play them. So good luck with your project. And, of course, Josh, in the chat room, if you have any questions in particular, please ask and we'll try to help with that.
Absolutely. Well, Tim, now that we're caught up on the live chat, let's go to our next question here from Mike. And Mike says, "I have a Multicade 60-in-1 in a rental house, and I'm having trouble figuring out how the volume was turned off. It looks like it has one dip switch bank. Are you able to help me figure it out? Thanks in advance, Mike." So, Tim, Mike sent these pictures. As you can see, it looks like a standard Multicade. They did Miss Pac-Man Galaga artwork on it, it looks like. So, it may have Galaga on the other side, Miss Pac on the other. Miss Pac bezel and control panel there. But we have a Galaga marquee and kick plate. And like I said, probably Galaga sidearm on the other side. He didn't send the picture for that. He did take a picture of the power supply and the 60-in-1 board, Tim.
Okay.
Again, probably pretty standard parts for the most part, but at least we know that we have, at least we know what's going on in his cabinet. So Tim, with all that all that information given from Mike here, what do you think is going on? Why can't he figure out how to turn up the volume on his 60-in-1 game?
Well, what's interesting, number one, is you're pretty brave for having it in a rent house.
Yeah,
right?
Agreed.
So he wasn't there, obviously, when it happened. It must have been working beforehand.
Sure.
So we're going to take for granted that it's probably not a software problem, because if it was working and the other settings are still intact and it's still playing on free play or coining up whatever you had it on, I'm going to think it's probably something physical. So what I would look at is doing what people do, monkey with stuff, that we would want to find, is there a volume knob? Where, we always, if you watch our videos, we love to install some kind of volume knob, especially on the 60-in-1, because they're either really loud or really soft, and we like to put that volume knob, and we'll kind of hide it. Now, I don't know where yours was on this game. I don't know if it was right inside the door or whatever, but I would really look for something hardware related, like, is it the volume knob broke, or maybe a speaker wire came undone, or something like that, if it all was working. Now, having said that, these things have a mind of their own sometimes, and we're always having to. I had one that I sold a customer one time, and they would say, I don't have any, all the settings are gone. I would go over there and I'd reset it, and it would work, and then he'd call me back the next week. The settings are off again. I'm thinking, what are you doing? I swear this board would just not keep the settings for whatever reason. And I put another one in there. I hadn't heard from him in years. And so sometimes you get a bad board that just has some issues like that, or won't hold certain settings. And they're cheap enough. Sometimes I would try a different board. But the manual tells you how to go into the settings. For of course, you want to go in and try the settings. Make sure the volume is actually turned on and up. But boy, just the fact that those keywords, rental house, and kind of assuming was working, and then now it quit, makes me more think it's something hardware related, like a broken wire, or they messed with the knob. Somebody did something with it, okay? And that's probably about the best advice that I could get. We got to figure out, we can watch our video on how we did it and hooked it up, and maybe you could kind of follow that, make sure your wires and stuff are good. If it's not that, he said there was one. There's some dip switch settings, but they don't really control volume.
No, you'd have to go into the soft dip.
It's the soft dip change, right? Which means you basically got to go in and program it, and your arcade manual or whatever should tell you how to do that. If you didn't get one with yours, they're really easy to find on the internet and download, I'm sure.
Yeah, in fact, Holland Computers has one on their website. If you do a search for 60-in-1 manual, I think the first link is to Holland Computers, Tim, which is one of our good partners. Bill Holland and his team over there are just great. And so, yeah, that's like the first one. If you're looking for a manual, just do a search for 60-in-1 manual, click on that Holland Computers link, and that'll set you up with it. But I'll go ahead and throw up the slide. Tim, do you have anything else?
Well, by all means, if the door was able to be open. Now, if you had it locked down pretty good, it would be kind of rare. It depends on if you didn't build it, maybe where they put a volume switch. We did a 61 very similar. We put a volume switch right on the top of the game,
sure,
where you could do it. We like to put them where they're kind of easier, right inside the coin door. But anyway, Mike, you can email us back if none of that helped. But we got to figure out, there had to be a way of some sort of turning the volume, having a knob.
Absolutely.
I would think.
Absolutely. So let me go ahead and throw this up here, Tim, so everybody can kind of summarize what we talked about here. The first thing we would recommend is checking that the speaker is still connected, like Tim mentioned. It could be that the wires came loose from the speaker, and that's why you don't have sound. You might also look for a volume knob in the front coin door or inside your cabinet, or, as Tim mentioned, maybe even at the top near the power button, as this may have been turned down by your previous renters. If all that checks out, you can try going into the test mode of the game board and adjusting the volume. The 60-in-1 manual has pretty good instructions on how to navigate the test mode and adjust the volume. Tim, it involves just, you can either hit the test mode button or you can turn one of the dip switches to get into test mode. I think it's dip switch 4 if I remember correctly. You turn that on with the game off, power it back on, it comes up into test mode, and then once it's in test mode, you navigate the menus to get to the volume control. So it could be that somebody did that. But like Tim mentioned, if you had it logged down pretty good, probably more of a connection issue somewhere with speakers. So just make sure the speaker is connected properly to your harness. And more than likely, I would guess that's probably where the issue is.
Is that, or don't rule out that those boards are really cheap. And some of them are just bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just
and
not very good boards.
Just like Tim mentioned, having the one that didn't save settings, we've seen that before a lot. These are cheaply made boards, and there's a reason you don't pay very much for them, because they are cheaply made. And so we have had bad boards, and so you may try contacting whoever you bought the board from, tell them the problem you're having, or just ordering another board since they are so cheap and seeing if you have better luck with that. Tim, anything else for Mike before we move on to our next one?
I don't think so, Mike. Just for future reference, and anybody out there, he gave some pictures, but I would probably even inside, the more pictures the better. The more pictures tell a lot of story for us. But anyway, write us back, Mike. Let us know what's going on with that now.
Absolutely. So Mike hopefully answers your question, and give us an update when you get a chance. If you still have trouble, please let us know, and we'll try to help you find that volume control somewhere in your cabinet, or help you navigate that 60-in-1 test menu if you need it. So. Okay, Tim, we have a couple more things over in the live chat, it looks like, so I'll go ahead and head over there real quick. Josh says, it was the same Josh. He says it's a MAME cabinet. Start off as a golden T, Tim. So a MAME cabinet with a U3000. Very nice monitor for a MAME cabinet. Should work out really well for you once you get it going. And he says, thanks, guys. Love the show. Thanks for being here, and hopefully the advice we gave you earlier will help you out. Russell is here. He says on the 60-in-1, it's on the board. Plus, you can also adjust it in the setup menu. Scroll past the 60 games, page pops up. I've had sound issues. Tried the solutions above. I even tried a second board. The issue in my case was that the speaker itself went out. So the board has a potentiometer for the volume. You can adjust with a small flathead screwdriver. So I've seen some that do have that potentiometer that Russell's talking about, and I've seen some that don't.
Right.
So it depends on what version of the board, too.
Say ones we buy normally don't, but that's good to know there are some out there that do. Mm-hmm. And so that's good advice. Thank y'all for chipping in with those expertise over there with those boards.
And like he mentioned, speaker could have gone out too. So
it's actually pretty rare that a speaker goes out, but it's happened.
Oh, it has.
And they're real easy to check. Mm-hmm. They're called, you ohm them with a meter.
Right.
And that's what you'll see. It's an 8 ohm or a 4 ohm.
Right.
A lot of times the wiring to those, to where the connectors are, I've seen those break. Yep. And could just be time for the speaker to go too. So thank y'all for chipping in with that too.
The nice thing about all the things that we mentioned, Tim, is all that stuff's pretty cheap repair, right? So so hopefully, with that in mind, Mike should be able to get that up fairly inexpensively. Is that a good way to say it? Without much cost on his end.
Yeah, so. Even if it's the board.
Right, even if it's the board, you're still going to be able to repair it, I think, with minimal expense. Is that a good way to say it?
Yep.
So $50 or less, even if you have to replace the board. So. Okay, I think we're caught up on the live chat, so let me go ahead and go over here to our next question from pixnstix. Tim, pixnstix. And they say, I have a Gorf stand-up game. Every now and then while playing, the sides of the screen will start to pull inward a few times, and then it pulls into a full horizontal collapse with just a vertical line from top to bottom. I have slapped the side of the cabinet and sometimes caused the vertical line to open back up to an open screen, and the horizontal collapse goes away. Also, there have been times when the background sound will go out, but the sounds of the shots and explosions will still work. Then later, the background sound will return. It really depends on the day I turn on the game. Some days there are no problems. Other times I get the issues noted above. What can be done? Thanks. Now, Tim, I think this is called, what can we call this? The realities of owning an old arcade game.
Yeah.
Right? Is that sometimes you go to it and it works, and sometimes you go to it and it doesn't. And maybe that's just a fact of getting old, because I feel exactly like that. Some days I work really great, and other days I don't, right? It's just part of getting old. But in this particular case, we have a Gorf, Tim, and it sounds like all the issues he's having are very intermittent. So we're getting this intermittent collapse kind of issue. We're getting this intermittent background sound missing issue. So with all that in mind, what kind of advice would you give to our friend pixnstix here?
Well, if we just kind of break those down, I think there's some separate issues going on. For one, you don't want to have to smack your game every time. But what the reason that works when that happens, a lot of times that's a real good indicator you just got a cold solder joint somewhere. Sure. And so if you could just go back and retouch up the solder, that may take care of that issue right away, without having to do a cap kit and a lot of other stuff like we've been talking about. I would particularly look at the areas where your pins are coming in there and touch up all them. But we've talked about this multiple times, and if you've watched our videos with Michael, the first thing he always did, he would turn that chassis upside down and would spend 30 minutes just touching up solder everywhere. This is a very common problem. So especially as the game gets older, as solder tends to crack and things like that. So removing the chassis and touching up those solder joints would be step one to me. Now, his other issue is a little different. The background sound issue, especially that if it never worked, that would be one thing. But the fact it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't, well, it's kind of like the question we talked about before. You could have a bad pot, maybe, but then the other sound wouldn't work right. Mm-hmm. So that kind of rules that out. What I'm thinking is probably there's some kind of electrical problem in his board. There's a board issue. So you're either going to have to touch up on solder and reseat some of the chips there, or maybe get your board repaired, or just do a repair yourself. If you can find the sound parts, there's usually some caps and stuff in that area and some solder joints and some things that you can do. That's one area that I would focus on.
So on the Gorf, on the sound in particular, it does have a dedicated audio amp board.
Right.
And so that audio amp board has transistors that drive certain sounds. And so my advice to you would be, one, make sure the connection between the audio amp board and the game board is really good. Two, replace the transistors, because it does seem like those transistors, they do control the different sound outputs. And so and Tim mentioned caps too. Caps would be good as well, but a lot of times the transistors on, especially that audio amp board, may be leading to some weird kind of like sounds dropping out and things. The fact that it happens sometimes, it doesn't happen others, could be a connection issue, could be on the pins, because like I said, that audio amp kind of connects to the main board, and so check the connector between the two, make sure that's good. You may need to replace that connector. I mean, that's, we've seen that before, Tim. But check all of the connection between that, and then replace the transistors on that little audio amp board. That may help you as well. And Tim actually put a picture of that audio amp board here so we can see it, so I'll bring it up here. But let's take these issues one at a time. Like Tim mentioned, the random collapse you're experiencing sounds like a monitor issue. Since you can slap the side of the cabinet and make it go away sometimes, it would seem to be caused by maybe a cold solder joint. Remove the chassis and touch up the solder on all the joints in the vertical section, kind of like what we talked about earlier with Josh's question, Tim. And then see our post on repairing monitor collapse issues for more information. Of course, you might do a cap kit as well, since you have the freaking thing out anyway, right? Right. And it's like anytime we pull the chassis, if it's been over a decade since we've done a cap kit, then more than likely we will do another cap kit and install them again. And so since you have the chassis out, you may just think about doing a cap kit. But like Tim mentioned, really just touching up the solder may get you where you want to go, may fix the issue. And you'll see here in this bottom part section, Tim, you'll see this audio amp here, and you'll see those transistors on the side of the board there. Mm-hmm. And so those are the transistors we're talking about here, and so you may want to replace those. But again, you'll see the connector there too that connects over to the main board. Make sure that connection is good, because if those pins are starting to become... if they're starting to lift because the solder is getting old to where you're not getting a good connection to the board anymore, then you may need to repair that or replace the cable that connects the audio amp to the main board. That may be something you have to do as well. Replacing the transistors would be probably one of the big things to do on this. And Tim mentioned there are some caps in that section too that you can check. But yeah, I think the transistors on this are what cause some of these weird intermittent issues like you're having, and it may be enough, kind of like what we talked about, to just touch up the solder on those, or just check the connection and make sure that that's making a good connection, and you may be in good shape just with that. So Tim, anything else before we move on here from pixnstix's question?
No, I think you're spot on with the transistors. It kind of reminds me, guys, knowing my background and stuff, of the old skee ball lanes. They had different transistors, because some of them would be like a sound if you hit something, if you hit on this side, or if you missed completely and kind of do the and so some of those were controlled, and you would be like, well, the sound is missing. I remember the other skee ball lane always does this, and 9 times out of 10 it was those transistors.
There you go. So we got some LOLs and some old Fonzie tricks in the live chat about hitting the game, and
that's the first thought that came to my mind was, you can be really cool, but it's also a little irritating, to do that. I have to do that every time.
Hey, with old electronics though, it works sometimes. I mean, you just make the Tim has the famous skee-ball dance story that you've told before. I won't retell it because I think we told it a lot. But basically, skee-balling wasn't working. Guy would get up there and dance on it and start working again. So I mean, just to give you the gist of it. But
he had the moves or something, he had the right step, and only he could do it. Nobody else knew the right where to dance. But we're like, why not just fix it, instead of
dancing on the skee-ball lanes all the time, right?
All the time.
So, but picks and sticks, hopefully that gives you some good places to start with your Gorf, like we talked about. Touch up the solder on that chassis, especially in the vertical section. Let's try that. And then let's check your audio amp connection to the main game board, as well as the transistors, to see if we can get that background sound back restored to fully working. So, hopefully answered your question. Good luck with repairing your Gorf game. And Tim, it sounds like it's working most of the time. So, I mean, but again, old games, man, this kind of stuff happens, right? It is what it is. So, okay, I think we're still caught up on the live chat, Tim. So let us move on to our next question from Miguel.
Okay.
So Miguel says, I was adjusting my monitor on my classic arcade cabinet, and the screen went completely white. Help! And that's it. That's all we have from Miguel to go on. We don't know the game. We just know that he was trying to adjust the monitor, and all of a sudden it went, whoa, like super bright white. Okay, so with that in mind, Tim, I know it's not a lot to go on, but I thought it would be at least... I think this happens to people a lot. This has happened to me, and I think this happened to you too, or we've had this happen before. And so I think this is why this is a good question to put on here, just because it does happen periodically to people. So with that in mind, Tim, what advice can we give to Miguel?
Well, just thinking of our own circumstance, when we're adjusting up some of the controls, remember too, the contrast and the brightness, and there's also a brightness on the flyback.
Right.
Those can be really touchy. Sometimes you barely touch that flyback, even almost not meaning to, and it can make your screen just white as can be. What I would want to ask Miguel is, but the game is still playing, right? If the game is still playing, then and it happened when you're kind of adjusting, don't panic. I would really look for those. It's a good time to pull the chassis, do some more cold solder joints like we've talked about previously tonight. But at the same time, I would think that check along the pots and make sure that they're working properly, that they're reading the right values. But more than likely, you hit the flyback or something. That's the one I would be concerned with. That's easy to turn, because it doesn't matter if you turn that one up. Nothing else is going to change it.
Right.
And that would be my guess.
Okay, sounds good, Tim. I'm going to go ahead and put the slide up here because I think you're right. The one on the flyback does seem particularly touchy.
Yeah.
Of all of the brightness controls, or all the controls period that you can adjust on an arcade monitor, the brightness on the flyback definitely seems like the one that if you just barely touch it sometimes, that thing will go, whoa!
Yeah.
Super bright. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and read the slide here for Miguel. There are a couple of things that can cause this issue. It can happen if the brightness and contrast potentiometers are broken, or if they have cold, cracked, and or broken solder joints. So check these pots along with their connection to the adjustment board / chassis to make sure they are working properly. And Tim, you can check those, just make sure that they're working, make sure that you are getting a change in value. Tim, we do have, I think, a video on checking potentiometers with a multimeter. Make sure you check that out if you have any questions about that process. Be sure to also adjust the brightness on the flyback. If it doesn't adjust, replace the flyback, because that's happened before where it's like you're just super bright and you can't turn it down at the flyback. It just seems like it doesn't do anything when you're turning the brightness on the flyback. If that's the case, you probably need to replace it altogether. So, but like Tim mentioned, does the game board continue to play when the screen goes white? Because if it doesn't, you may have a problem with your game board, right, Tim?
Right, exactly. Or an issue
with the connection.
With the connection or something. Yeah, we need to know if it's playing blind and all you did was some adjustments, then we kind of got to walk back through. And I would really look into that flyback brightness. That's where my guess is.
Something else I did not think about, Tim, when we were kind of discussing this question earlier is that the connection between the adjustment board and the main chassis. If that is not good, it can cause your adjustments to go wonky.
Yeah.
So a lot of monitor chassis have a breakout board. I think of the K7000, Tim, that has the black level adjustment on it. If that breakout board is not hooked up properly to the main chassis, boy, you're going to get some weird stuff.
Yeah.
So make sure, or let's say you picked up that board and you started adjusting, and the connection, when you picked it up, just kind of started going a little weird, right? And then all of a sudden you get this white screen. You're not sure what happened. It could be that it lost connection to that black level pot on the breakout board, and now you have a white screen. So anyway, but yeah, so it could be that connection as well. Make sure you check the connection between the breakout adjustment board and your main chassis too. Any pins and the wiring itself to make sure that it's in good shape. Tim, anything else for Miguel before we move on?
I don't think so.
Sounds good. So, Miguel, hopefully that gives you a little bit to go on for your question. If you need additional help, get back with us. Maybe get us name of your game, maybe some pictures or something like that, and we can give you better advice on where to go from there. Okay, Peter does say the old Fonzie trick. He needs to do that He needs to do that to his Stargate. He has to do the boom like that in order to get it to work. So we've had games we've had to do that on before for sure. That's not something that is rare, I would say. Typically, we do try to find the cause of it, but sometimes you're busy, you don't have time to work on it, right, Tim?
Right.
It's like, okay, I know, well, if I hit it real quick, it's going to work. So it is what it is. So, but hopefully, Peter, you can get yours fixed just like what we were talking about earlier with pixnstix and his issues as well.
Agree.
So. Okay, Tim, the pregame's on. I see for the Chiefs Eagles tonight.
Right.
We've got the game on. So
the drinking game is, right, every time they show Taylor Swift, you have to take a shot.
Oh, my goodness.
We'd be pretty drunk by halftime probably, but so what's the over-under of Taylor Swift tonight? Well,
I would put it at 5, but I don't know. What do you think?
There's one in the commercial already.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to say, we're going to go, I would say over. We're going to have at least 10 shots.
Oh, my goodness.
At least 10.
Okay.
We'll see.
Are you playing fantasy football this year?
You know what? My league is just kind of disbanded, and I've just have been so busy. I didn't even join a league, so I'm kind of behind this year. I wish I was.
I haven't played in several years. My brother still plays in like 3 or 4 leagues. He's very active, but
so does Landon, my son. Yeah. But I don't know. I've always got so much on my plate. I don't really need. It's like one more thing to keep up with. Although I think it is fun.
Absolutely. Well, we'll talk more about that in the after show. So you guys stay tuned if you want to hear some NFL talk. We'll at least talk about who we want to win tonight, which should be pretty obvious since we're all Cowboy fans. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit. And we got the kick. Oh, is it Baltimore tonight?
It is Baltimore.
Okay, it's Baltimore.
I thought it was Eagles.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I kept seeing Eagles, so I guess it's Ravens. Sorry. Whatever.
Oh, well.
So, anyway, guys, so we're going to continue on here with our next question from Joe, Tim. And Joe says, hello, I was reaching out for a little technical advice on my Silver Strike bowling machine. Now, Tim, I should mention this is where the title of the episode comes from.
Okay.
So, I had not started it up for a while, and it used to power on and work. If I hook up a computer monitor, it plays fine, so I know it's just the screen. The back of the screen constantly ticks and flickers, and he says arcs, kind of question mark.
Okay.
I don't know much about wiring and electrical whatnot, but I would like to fix this and move it on to another owner that has time to enjoy it. Thanks, Joe. So, Tim, here we are here with Joe. He's got a Silver Strike bowling, and Tim, this is why this episode is called Tick Flick Bowl. Because this thing ticks, flicks, and
it's a bowling game.
It's a bowling game. Okay. So there we go. Anyway, so we're going on here, Tim, with this issue. Now, he already did some great troubleshooting here for Joe.
I think so,
Okay, so we have the Silver Strike bowling. He already hooked up a computer monitor to it to see if it would work, and guess what? It's working.
Right.
So we really know at this point that we're probably having a monitor issue. So, Tim, what can you tell Joe about repairing this monitor issue on his Silver Strike bowling game?
Well, always... We do know that it's a monitor issue, so good job there. That's exactly what we would have said. We would have said, well, if you can hook up a computer monitor or something, at least we can narrow it down. He's done a really good job of that. But now, we always, and especially if you're pretty new, I always tell people, where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's ticking, there's a bomb, right? It's like when these are not normal sounds. He knows this.
Right.
And the arcing really concerns me.
For sure.
Because arcing is usually caused by the flyback, which is really high voltage, and it usually is cracked.
Yep.
And that's probably his issue. So it's best to replace it and do a complete cap kit and stuff. Now, if you don't feel comfortable, he already admitted, I got it this far, but hey, this is a little, and this is where we're jumping into that advanced stage, Unless you've already repaired a couple monitors, I wouldn't go replacing a flyback yet. But until you've done a few cap kits. Now, can you do it? Yes. Could you watch a video and probably figure it out? Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things that can be very frustrating for a new person getting everything lined up, the danger involved, and things like that. This is also a good time that let somebody do it that does this for a living. They need the money and you need the help. So, you're really supporting them by doing that. And it'll be back and in good condition, and maybe even with a little warranty or something in case something else goes wrong with it. That would be my advice.
Sounds good. So now Tim, he sent a video that I didn't play here, Tim, but the video was very dark, and all it showed was that every so often there'd be a little arc.
Okay,
right, exactly, like a little arcing in there. So it's like I didn't feel like we should show the video just because basically we can see, we kind of get an idea just from what I put in the message that we're getting.
But it was very helpful. You were able to tell this is not a cap kit problem, right?
Yeah. So we are getting some arcing and things like you mentioned.
Okay.
So Tim, I'm going to go ahead and throw the slide up here. First off, great troubleshooting on the issue like we talked about. The fact that the game plays with the computer monitor means we are indeed having a monitor issue. So, based on your description, it sounds like a problem in the high voltage section of the monitor chassis. The arcing is usually caused by a crack in the flyback. Visually inspect the flyback, see if you can find the crack. Once you've confirmed that the flyback is cracked, it's best to replace it. Let us know your monitor chassis make model. We can help you find a replacement. Arcing can also be caused by a problem with the tube, but that's much more rare, I would say.
Yeah.
And like Tim mentioned, it's a little bit more advanced repair than, say, a cap kit. So if you don't feel comfortable, you might want to go ahead and contact somebody on our resources page at arcaderepairtips.com/resources under the monitor repair heading and send it off to somebody like Paul or Chad at Arcade Cup. And paulsmonitors.com is not currently up, but I think you can still email Paul at paulduray@gmail.com.
Okay.
So if you want to send it off to him, you could do that as well. But it's up to you. I mean, if you feel like you can tackle this, again, Tim, we're just kind of basing that on what he said, right? He said that he wasn't very comfortable with these kind of like electronic repairs. And if you're not, maybe better to send it off to somebody if you don't have the experience of dealing with something like this. Tim, anything else before we move on from Joe's question?
No, just be careful with it, with that arcing. That's always a concern. And I don't know that it's any more dangerous than any other time, but when you see those bolts of little lightning bolts coming out of there, it's kind of scary, and just we don't want anything to catch fire you to do. So once you solve the problem, let's leave it off until we get it corrected.
Absolutely. So Joe, hopefully that gives you some good insight on your question, and let us know if you need additional help. Again, if you get us the make and model of your chassis, we can help you out with that. And Tim, the What's My Monitor page on Bob Roberts' site we've mentioned before, but that's a good place to go. You can compare pictures of your chassis to the pictures on there if you need help identifying your make and model of your monitor. So Russell's here. Don't want to get zapped from not knowing how to discharge, especially if the person has health issues. The bite is not when you forget. That is for sure. And so, yeah, if you're not comfortable with that, maybe call somebody out. Discharging a monitor is not bad, though. That's something you may be able to do. And then removing it, installing it, that can be a little more on the intermediate side, I would say, depending on your level. So if you don't even feel comfortable doing that much, you may have to reach out to somebody who does repair in your area to come out and take a look at it. So. And he didn't say where he's from, so we couldn't tell you anybody in your area,
right?
But you never know. So, Cybermind Arcade said it's raining in Kansas City.
Nice.
So there we go. I guess we're gonna have a rainy game tonight.
Is that where they're playing at tonight?
I guess so. I mean, like I said, so Ravens and Chiefs tonight. I thought it was the Eagles. I could have swore it was the Eagles. No, Ravens, Chiefs. So looking forward to first game of the NFL season, like we're talking about. So we'll talk about that in the after show.
Yeah.
I don't think it may be started by the time we get around
Eagles
to it.
fans, you got a couple more days before you're 0-1.
There you go.
So that's good.
There you go. So, Tim, we're finally to the quick question and answer section of the show. So, for those of you guys who may be watching us for the first time, the quick question and answer section is where we give Tim 3 rapid-fire questions. He rapid-fires 3 answers right back to us, and then we move on quickly. But these are a little bit more short form than the other questions we had earlier in the show, and so it's just easier to do these kind of in a rapid, quick-fire fashion instead of going into a lot of detail like we did on some of the other ones. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and get to the questions for this month. We have one from FN3234 that says, do you do cap kit replacements on monitors? So he just wants to know. A question from Andrew saying, is there a video explaining what a hot is? Thanks. Okay. And then one from the Martial Arts channel saying, how long does a screen stay degassed after using a degassing coil?
Interesting.
So 3 things. Do you do cap kits? Do you have a video explaining what a hot is? And how long does the screen stay degassed after using a degassing coil? So, Tim, let's take these one at a time real quick. Do we do cap kits, Tim?
Well, of course, all the time on our games.
That's true.
But we don't do it commercially any longer because we have full-time jobs and families and lives. But because there are people that do this for a living, and they're also very good at it.
Yes.
So the practice definitely, and the more you do it, and we just provide the resources, so we would definitely refer you to them at this time.
Sounds good. Andrew, what about the hot, Tim? Is there a video talking about the hot?
If you go into our video on troubleshooting games that play blind, we talk about it, and the Volume 2 DVD on it has some more information.
It has an extended cut of that.
I don't
video.
know about anybody else that has shot one, but that's a good question, and you can really see some. We go into a little more detail on those videos.
Absolutely. And then, Tim, the Martial Arts Channel, how long does a degass usually last after I use the degassing coil?
You know, that's a great question. The simple answer is I've seen it last till you move the game again.
Sure.
Most of the time, it stays polarity and all that stuff wise where it is until you move it. Having said that, when we had games at Chuck E. Cheese, part of the PMing of the game, but you got to remember we would move the games a lot and get a vacuum under them.
Right.
So we did it once a month. But I don't think as long as you're not moving the game, but if anytime the game is moved, especially in a different direction, you may need to. But most of the time it should hold as long as it's sitting there in your game room in that one position.
There you go. Okay, Tim, I'll go ahead and throw these up here real quick so we can discuss them further. So FN3234, unfortunately, we are not taking monitor repairs at this time. Try Paul at paulduray@gmail.com or Chad at arcadecup.com. And we have more, as we discussed earlier, on our resources page at arcaderepairtips.com/resources under the monitor repair heading. So just look there. There's several other people we recommend. And Paul, like I said, paulsmonitors.com, which is Paul Duray's site, is currently down, Tim. But you can still email him, and hopefully he'll still get those repairs taken care of for you. Tim, on Andrew's question about the hot, we do have an extended cut of our video on troubleshooting games that are playing blind on our Volume 2 DVD that has more information on the hot. But I also told Andrew, if you'll just send us a picture of your monitor chassis, we will help you identify where the hot is and how to replace it.
Good.
So if you send us a picture of what you got, we can help you out with that. I told him that when I responded to his question. So, but this is a reminder too, the extended cut of the troubleshooting games that's playing blind on our Volume 2 DVD has much more information on that, and it is worth your time. And I think it also has checking a horizontal output transistor on it as well. So if you don't have that, pick one up. And Tim, we still sell DVDs from time to time. Not as many as we used to, but we still do. So there's still people out there who are enjoying DVDs. Few and far between, but anyway. So the Martial Arts Channel about the degassing coil. It will usually last until you move it to a new location. With that said, it's possible that surrounding magnetic fields, such as an unshielded speaker, can cause some occasional discoloration. Like Tim mentioned, you can just, at that point, you can just use the degassing coil again. Anytime you're going to rotate the game in a different direction than what the game was in previously, you're probably going to have to use it. So it just depends. It just depends, right, Tim?
Yeah.
I mean, but it is something where usually it'll last until you move the game again. Tim, any other thoughts on any of these questions before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Sounds good. So hopefully FN3234, Andrew, and the Martial Arts Channel, hopefully we got some good information on your questions there. If you need any additional help, please contact us, and we'll try to help you out further with any of these issues. So, well, there we go, Tim. That does it for the questions. We're already to discussion. I feel like we're kind of blowing through things tonight. Okay. And now we have a lot of discussion, so it's probably good that we did kind of get through the questions quickly. And so with that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about some news from this month, Tim. There's a lot to talk about. And the first piece of news that we really had for the month, Tim, was that Atari was going to release this modernized 7800 Plus console that plays cartridges this holiday. Now, Tim, this is really just kind of a reskinned version of their 2600 Plus that they released last year.
Right.
Because, I mean, they both play the 2600 and the 7800 cartridges. So technically, it's kind of just a reskin, but it's a cool reskin that looks like an Atari 7800, right? So,
yeah.
But for $130, it comes with the console, a wireless CX78 Plus gamepad, and a copy of Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest. Like the 2600 Plus that released last year, like we discussed, the 7800 Plus will play 2600 and 7800 cartridges. Now, Tim, I noticed this in their promotional stuff for this, that in the corner, you'll see this thing that says Atari Plus Platform. You see that? Like in the corner of the little logo here. And so it makes me think that maybe Atari is kind of coming up with this Plus platform that they're using for all of these consoles. And so you'll get like different reskins of these consoles or whatever, but basically it's going to be like any of these games play on this Atari Plus platform. Does that make sense? That kind of seems like the direction they're going.
It's kind of cool.
And Tim, we've always been happy with, we're really happy with the way Atari has been going and the direction they've been in, really kind of leaning into that nostalgia. I think the 2600 Plus was a great release for them. It seemed like it did really well for them. And I think the 7800 Plus will do well too. Tim, I don't know though, for people who bought the 2600 Plus, there's not a lot of benefit here except for the skin. What do you think?
Yeah, it's, I mean, it looks cooler to me. It looks cool, but it may be kind of a collectible, and it's not that expensive.
Sure.
I mean, it's not like they're wanting $500 or something for it. So, you know, I would think that, you know, if it's something you collect or something, why not?
There you go. So let us know, guys, if you are interested in picking up a 7800 Plus this holiday season, or if you've already got one on pre-orders. Tim, they already put the pre-orders up on Amazon, I think, as well as on their website. So if you're interested in that and you've already got it, let us know, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on it for sure. Now, Tim, I'm looking over in the live chat, and it looks like Russell just donated $10 twice.
Wow.
So thank you, Russell. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And he says, thanks for what y'all do. Got to go. Have a blessed one. Well, bless you too. Russell, thank you so much for those donations. It is much appreciated. And thanks for being here for the live show tonight. We appreciate you. And Tim, hopefully you can catch the rest of the show here in a bit.
Hope so.
And, I mean, we know that people have to drop in and drop out with things going on and everything. So, you know, Tim, what do we say here? You're never late. You're always on time.
That's
so
right.
You can always catch back up. You can always watch whatever you missed later, whatever you need. But Russell, thanks for being here. Thanks for the donations. It is very much appreciated. So, Cyberman Arcade says wireless controls. He thinks on that, and it's the one difference. It's the one difference he saw. So, yeah, it could be wireless. So that would be a little bit of a difference there. You are getting wireless controls with it. So if that's the case, maybe a little bit more benefit than what we're thinking.
Sure.
So. Next piece of news here, Tim, is that Capcom is coming out with a Capcom Fighting Collection 2 for home consoles, and it's out next year, it says. So Capcom USA has announced Capcom Fighting Collection 2. This collection features several arcade games, including Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Project Justice, Capcom Fighting Evolution, Street Fighter 3 Upper, Plasma Sword, Power Stone, and Power Stone 2. It will be released for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and PC, and Xbox, Tim. They just announced it will be on Xbox in 2025. Now, Tim, the reason why I put this on here is because several of these games, of course, all of them are arcade games that that were released at one time. But Power Stone, Power Stone 2, Project Justice, Capcom vs. SNK, and Capcom vs. SNK 2. These games, regardless of if you get them on the Dreamcast when they were originally released, or the PlayStation 2, or if you got the actual arcade boards for them, these games are expensive. Like if you're trying to buy the physical copies of these games, whether that's on a home console or in an arcade release, all of these arcade games are pretty expensive to get a hold of. If you're trying to get a hold of Naomi cartridges for these, or you're trying to get a hold of Dreamcast discs for these, or whatever, it costs you quite a bit to get these games. And so the fact that they put all of these games into one collection, Tim, it's going to be it's going to be really nice for people who just want to play the games and don't want to have to worry about trying to get the original disc and things, and the exorbitant, just crazy prices that these things are going for. Tim, Project Justice, Power Stone, and Power Stone 2 are three of my favorite games. I love those games so much. Capcom vs. SNK, Tim, we had a Naomi board, Capcom vs. SNK, remember that? So at one time, which was really fun to play. Capcom Fighting Evolution, Tim, may have been only a home release. Street Fighter 3 Upper, I think that's Alpha 3 Upper. I didn't put that there. But Street Fighter Alpha 3, of course, was probably the best of the Alpha series. And so you're talking about some games that are very beloved among fighting game enthusiasts, Tim, and usually command high prices. And so for those of you guys who are like, man, I really want the opportunity to play these games without having to pay the just ridiculous prices for the Dreamcast versions or for the arcade versions, you're going to have your chance here with the Capcom Fighting Collection too. Tim, I don't know if you've played any of these games in particular. I know we had a Capcom vs. SNK on wrap for a long time. That was pretty decent. I think we ended up selling it. Power Stone, Tim, is one of my favorites. It's a 4-player melee-style fighting game.
I remember.
Or Power Stone 2 is. Yeah. Power Stone 1 is a 2-player. And we never had one of those in Naomi, but I have the Dreamcast version of both those, and they're fantastic. So good stuff there. So I'm glad Capcom is releasing these things, giving everybody the opportunity to play these games who may not be able to play them otherwise. So Tim, our next news nugget here was probably the biggest news that released this month, and it's kind of in the middle of our news and discussion section here. But it is the pinball release from Stern, the Uncanny X-Men, the next release, Tim. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got the teaser, I think it was Monday, and then they released the full trailer yesterday with all the details and things about it. So, Tim, this layout is very interesting. First off, it reminds me a lot of Circus Voltaire.
Okay.
And in that the Sentinel head is kind of positioned where the Ringmaster is in that game. Okay. Now, I don't know if he eats the ball like the Ringmaster does. I don't think he does. But in the premium, I think in the LE models, he does pop up from the playfield.
Nice.
In the Pro, I think he's just always there.
Okay.
So. But you can see the Sentinel head there. I've got it pictured there, and then there's a little Wolverine figure on there. And then you can see, Tim, on the ramps there are Sentinel hands that can stop the ball on the ramp or hold a ball. It's very interesting how those work.
Interesting.
And then the other piece that's probably been talked about the most is that there is a playfield on the bottom left-hand corner of the game that is kind of a separate playfield for what they call the Danger Room section. Which to me kind of squeezes the main flipper part of the game a little bit. And so it makes me wonder how the game will ultimately play with that there. But overall, Tim, I think it looks really cool. I'm going to go ahead and read this real quick so everybody can kind of hear the description here. The Uncanny X-Men playfield features an array of new crossing shots and ramp designs. The Danger Room design, located to the left of the main flippers, offers a high-risk, high-reward experience. The game also features a mechanically articulated Sentinel for the player to battle. The Sentinel's large robotic head changes its state based on the player's actions. So, Tim, I mean, it's very unique. I will give it that. I'm going to reserve judgment to see how it plays until we get it. Tim, I'm a big X-Men fan. I have one of Stern's original X-Men pinball machines. As you know, I love that game, and it's one of my favorites. And so, just being a big X-Men fan, I'm looking forward to playing it at least and giving it a shot. But it is a different type design for sure. Tim, any thoughts on this design?
It looks a little busy.
Yeah.
But I haven't played it.
Right.
And some people like a lot of that.
Yeah.
I like a little more flow and hit some shots and stuff, but haven't played it.
Right.
I would definitely want to play it.
Yeah.
It looks fun.
Yeah.
It does look fun and a good theme. Of course, they're really hitting it just a good time. It seems like Stern always kind of comes through with the theme pinballs, you know, and stuff that seems like they're timely and stuff that people want. So I think it'll be a good seller for them.
I think so too. X-Men, like we talked about, is a really hot property now, especially with the release of first you got X-Men 97 that just came out. Of course, Deadpool and Wolverine came out, Tim, this summer, and I think I talked about that last time. I saw it. It was awesome.
Oh, wow.
Or did I?
I don't think so.
Okay,
That
well,
was
I'll
in
talk about
between.
it in the after show. I forgot about that. But it was really good. We can talk about that. It is raining right now in St. Louis, in case you guys were wondering. So we're seeing it here. But, it just, I think it's a good time for an X-Men pinball machine. So they're hitting the license at the right time. And it does look busy. Tim mentioned that. Tim, but, I mean, think about Jersey Jack pinball games. I always feel like they are busy, too.
I
And
do.
they can be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you never know. But we'll reserve judgment until we play it. And once we do, we'll give you guys our opinion on that release. So, Tim, before we move on to the next news nugget here, I'm going to go to the live chat with Dean. And he says, any tips for getting that Nintendo shine on a new paint job? I've been told a good wet sand followed by wax will do the job. Tim, what do you think?
You know, I'll be honest, that's one of the toughest things that we have done. And exactly what you're saying is, a wet sand and stuff. You got to remember that it's really a kind of a formica that they use.
Right.
And so it's kind of dyed into it. We tried to paint one before, and it just did not come out very good. If anybody else has some additional tips, I would really like to hear that myself. But yeah, without a wet sand or something, I'd never had much luck at all with them.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
it's because it's hard to paint over that laminated type stuff.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I get that. So
wasn't really painted in the beginning like that.
Right, exactly. It was kind of it was sheeted like
Yeah,
that. Right, exactly.
yeah.
So when they sheeted the formica, they kind of built that into the process.
Kind of the dye or whatever
right, exactly.
they did.
Yeah, so a little bit different. But yeah, he says a good wet sand followed by a wax is what he's saying.
I think so. That would definitely help.
That would give you a shine for sure.
Yes.
So.
But you're right. They did. That's what I like about them. They
Absolutely.
always had a good, shiny side look.
For sure. Tim, it is more than raining. It is pouring in St. Louis. service.
Oh, wow.
So there you go. We'll see what happens here in a bit. But anyway. Dean, hopefully answers your question. And Tim, I think we're caught up on the live chat. We've got, it looks like 3 more stories here I want to cover in the news section. Tim, the other pinball release, we don't know too much about at this point.
Okay.
We will find out
kind
more.
of a mystery, right?
Right,
Yeah.
on September 12th when they do their full trailer. But that is the Jersey Jack Pinball release of Avatar, The Battle for Pandora.
Okay.
So far, all we've got from them are 2 blurry photos and a teaser trailer. So that's what and a name. We got a name out of them.
Well,
so,
we know it has to do with Avatar, which is popular.
Absolutely. Now, you will remember that Stern did an Avatar before.
Mm-hmm.
And our friend Mark, who runs a lot of the Facebook stuff, said, it wasn't really a big seller for Stern. The thing about Avatar, like I was trying to tell him, though, is it's both the Avatar movies are in the top 3 highest grossing films of all time. There are people who absolutely love Avatar. I've seen Avatar one time.
Me too. That was good.
And it was good. And
that was it.
Exactly. I never want to watch it again. I have not seen the second one yet. But just look at how much money that thing raked in at the box office. It was ridiculous. And so I think, Tim, it's definitely a license that has its fans for sure. Let me read this real quick and we'll talk about it. Jersey Jack Pinball has released 2 blurry photos and a teaser trailer of their next game, which will be based on the Avatar movie franchise. Avatar, The Battle for Pandora is expected to be the first production game for game designer Mark Seiden, Tim, who officially joined Jersey Jack several years ago. He's best known for his work on the custom game Metroid, but also contributed to the design of Jersey Jack Pinball's last release, Elton John, which was, of course, done by the King of Flow, Steve Ritchie mostly. More details are scheduled to be released on September 12th, so we'll get a little bit better idea of the design and everything like that on September 12th. But until then, Tim, you'll have to just deal with the blurry photos and the one teaser trailer that they released. So, Tim, again, I'm not a big Avatar fan, but man, there are obviously people who are, because golly, I mean, people saw this thing a million times in the movies. So
yeah, we'll see how much they want to spend on one, though. We'll find out.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I mean, the Stern Avatar I've played several times, and it's a decent game. I mean, it's not great or anything, but I mean, I enjoy playing it. I think, it's probably middling for me. Not one of my favorites, but not a bad game. So, but, Jersey Jack has a way. Tim, I think about Pirates of the Caribbean. The Stern one is good. The Jersey Jack one, to me, is better. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it just depends. I think Jersey Jack can put their kind of own stamp on it and make it really unique. So we'll find out in due time here on September 12th. But next time we do the live show, we'll have more details at that point. So, Tim, we had some news on the home arcade front this month, and that comes from SLR Business, apparently. They're providing a $20 million line of credit to Tastemakers LLC, the creators of Arcade 1-Up, the 4th largest brand in gaming. I don't know how they know it's the 4th largest brand in gaming, Tim. But Arcade 1-Up definitely has a following now. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's people who have these things in their houses. Several, I mean, who knows? They sold a ton of them. We know they did. But Tim, we've noticed that they've definitely been slowing down on releases lately, it feels like.
I do.
And so maybe it's because they were having some financial issues, so maybe this is a way for them to kind of come out of some of that, and have this line of credit that allows them to maybe put a little bit more risk or put some more products out in the retail spaces. So, but let me read this right here. Tastemakers LLC, the company behind the Arcade 1-Up line of home arcade cabinets, has secured a $20 million line of credit to continue their business. This financial support is aimed at bolstering the company's working capital. This would seem to indicate that they will be releasing more new products in the near future. Now, Tim, this is my question. Do you think there's still a market for home arcade machines? Now, Tim, let's take a minute here to assess the state of the economy, if we will.
Right.
So inflation is high. The stock market is kind of tanking recently. Okay, and so with these economic conditions, do you think these are still conducive to selling home arcade products? That's my question to you.
One of the good news is that there obviously was a demand. Okay, now has that shrunk a little? Probably yes, but compared. It kind of depends on the title.
Right.
Look how popular Star Wars was. Well, if you want to own a Star Wars arcade, get ready to shell out the bucks.
Right.
But you could afford one of these, and a lot of people went that route.
Sure.
So they're going to have to be real selective with the titles, I think. They're also probably going to have to break away. They've made so many classic games.
Yes.
Maybe they're going to have to start breaking into... I would even say wouldn't it be cool if they had a little home version of Whack-A-Mole or something for your kids?
Or cranes.
Or cranes or something.
And there have been some people noticed in some of their videos that there was a crane. It looked like a prototype that they had come up with. But Arcade 1-Up hasn't said anything about that. The last official release we got from them was the Frankenstein cabinet that was half Golden Tee, half Midway.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't a big fan of.
I mean, at some point, I mean, you own several, I own some, and but at the same point, I don't know how much more they can just keep coming out. They're going to have to really get creative. But having said that, I think if they do, and they start to hit another round, maybe a tiny skee ball lane or something that's going to start capturing what did people play 10 years ago.
Right.
Or 15 years ago instead of 40 years ago. What kind of games were popular at Chuck E. Cheese or at the arcade or whatever it was. And they've tapped into some of that, but at the same time, we'll see. I don't know. The entertainment business as a whole is probably a little bit concerned right now.
Sure.
We're not eating out quite as much.
We aren't either.
But then again, going to the grocery store is expensive too. So
That's true.
maybe where we're choosing to eat out, I should say, is a little different than where we used to.
Yep.
So people are just tight with their money right now, and that's cyclical and stuff goes and changes. There's still a market probably out there. I would just, would caution them really, you can't afford to almost have a couple duds that aren't going to sell. You've really got to find something that people really want, or they're willing to pay for that other than something else.
It's true. Tim, we think about when Arcade 1-Up first came out, and they kind of hit it just perfectly with the pandemic, which is in their best interest, because that's when people were stuck at home. They couldn't, they couldn't do all of their vacation stuff, and so a lot of people, I felt like, rather than go on vacation, spent money on Arcade 1-Ups and other things because they knew they were going to be stuck at home and they wanted things to play. Now that we're kind of out of that, though, I do feel like I know my family in particular, we've moved more to experiences than we have to buying home entertainment products anymore. And so, I've taken my kids to go see WWE events and things like this recently and stuff. So it's like we want to do more experiences, I feel like.
Right, if you told the kids we're going to get a new game or we're going to go to WWE a couple times in the next year, they're going to probably choose
WWE.
Yeah, so,
right.
And that may be we kind of like to be entertained and stuff. And it's not like you don't have a game for them to play,
sure.
Right? If they wanted to play something.
Exactly.
So I'm wondering, because to me it's like, how do you tap into people who have never bought Arcade 1-Up? Now you got some people, they're going to collect every game that they ever come out with. They probably got, game room full of them. But that's pretty small market and pretty small rare. How many, or people that have never pulled the trigger on one, or are you going to be able to keep that price point? So you also have to admit that something that was $500 or $600 5 years ago, now $600 doesn't sound as expensive as it did then.
Right.
Back then I'm thinking, well, for $800 I could just buy one at auction or use one. Now, if it's $2,500 at auction, that $600 price tag doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
It'll be tricky, but good luck to them. I hope that it works out, and we'll just have to see.
Absolutely. So, but at least, Tim, it seems like they're going to continue to be in business, and that's the main thing. And we do wish them the best of luck, because actually their products are pretty decent. We would like to see more of kind of what they were doing before, I think, rather than kind of the Golden Tee / Midway kind of combinations. But we'll see what direction they go, and we'll be following it closely in our news in upcoming live shows, I'm sure. So. Well, Tim, this is the story. This is a long time coming story.
I think
and
so.
And you sent this to me, and I couldn't believe it, because this guy has gotten away with so much, Tim. As those of you guys know, there is a thread on the KLOV, the Arcade Museum forums, dedicated to one company named RAM Controls, Tim.
Right.
Are you familiar with this this
yes.
forum?
Well, I've heard people saying don't buy anything from them.
Right.
Right.
And so RAM Controls was owned by this man named Adam Judd, Tim. And you sent me a local news article out of Alabama, and it said a lot here, Tim. It said, for over a decade, Adam Judd has scammed many members of the arcade community out of thousands of dollars using different fake businesses, RAM Controls West Prototype, and aliases, Dave Adams, Greg Foster, Jim Bloomquist, Travis Reynolds, among others.
Wow.
Okay. We now have news out of Alabama that Adam has been arrested. Detectives execute a search of his home, revealing stolen property valued at over $100,000 with bonds totaling $120,000. Judd was charged with 6 counts of theft by deception, first degree. And the only reason this happened, Tim, is because he scammed apparently the wrong company out of Minnesota out of $4,000. Mm-hmm. And Tim, they actually went after him.
Wow.
And so
there's stuff like that bound to catch up with you sooner or later. But for people that have been ripped off by them over the years, I hope that some people feel like a little bit of justice even for them.
Absolutely. You can't go around just continuing to scam people using different names, different companies, and continue to get away with it. Eventually, it will catch up with you. I've watched enough episodes of American Greed to know that.
Right.
So it's like,
maybe this will be on an episode before long.
I would love that. We need to get the Adam Judd version of American Greed up and running. I need to send the producers. This is what you guys need to do. This guy has been. But Tim, how many people do you know that had bought from RAM Controls in the past and got screwed? I mean, literally, like there were posts all over KLOV.
Right.
I mean,
it's pretty common that for a while there, and then everybody kind of learned the lesson, you know.
Right.
But don't deal with Greg, or don't deal with Jim, or don't deal with Travis. They're like,
and he would open up different Etsy stores
yes.
under different names and stuff like this, and just keep scamming people. And people would repost those saying, "Oh, it's still Adam up to his old stuff," you know. We're talking about. I mean, it's been probably 15 years, Tim.
Yes.
Over a decade, I mean, is what I said, but 15 years plus even. I mean, this guy's been out there ripping people off. And so, Tim, it catches up with you, man.
Sometime sooner or later.
So, and it looks like it's caught up to him, Tim. He is in jail currently, and considering his I think his bond was set at $100,000 or $120,000. And he's facing 6 counts of theft by deception. I mean, even if just like 2 or 3 of those hold, then, and considering they found stolen property on his property, that's not a good look either, right? Exactly. I don't know if there's too many lawyers that can get you off for possession of stolen property. So, man, if you're a lawyer that can do that, man, you're a miracle worker for sure. But yeah, possession of stolen property, Tim, that's like busted. Like
right.
Busted.
Pretty good.
So the question will just be how much jail time or how much he has to pay in restitution, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know.
It may be a lawyer contacting you if you were scammed.
Did you buy class action lawsuit is what we're talking about, right? For Adam, that'd be amazing.
Did you buy anything from RAM Controls between the years? Of...
Yeah, we're gonna get the Camp to June stuff going.
Maybe.
So maybe a class action lawsuit would be good as well. But it stinks, Tim, that there are people who are always going to be taking advantage of other people. It doesn't matter. People have been doing this since the beginning of time, and so it's just another in a history of people who do this. And fortunately, it looks like this guy got caught. So I mean, hopefully justice will be served and he'll do his time. And sorry for those of you guys who got ripped off, because you probably won't get your money back, but at least he's getting what he seems like he deserves. So there we go. Okay. Tim, is there anything else before we move to wrapping this episode up?
No, what's up in the live chat?
Joe says 2024 and we are ripping off arcade guys. Yeah, I mean, he was basically. Well, it sounds like it wasn't an arcade guy this time. It sounds like it was probably a company he was going to do some metal work for, and he didn't come through, obviously. And so something to that effect. And so, or they shipped him product and then he didn't pay for it, right? Something to that effect. So, I don't know, but he got busted. Regardless of what you think, he got busted. So I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. So hopefully like I said, he'll get a trial, and we'll see what happens from there. So we'll keep up with it. We'll keep you posted, right?
Right.
Sounds good. Well, Tim, let's wrap up this episode by just doing our little housekeeping stuff here at the end. We do want to remind you that we're always looking to feature arcade-related videos here on our channel. If you want some free advertising for your YouTube channel, we're looking for people to submit short videos, 10 minutes or less, about arcade-related topics. Send a link of your video to questions@arcaderepairtips.com, and our staff will review it. If we like it, we'll use it during one of our live show episodes. Make sure to put a plug-in for your channel so people will know where to find you. We look forward to seeing your submissions. Tim, we're always looking for channel channels to feature, especially if you're in that group of people who are just to the point of being monetized, where you just need a couple more subscribers, maybe a couple more hits, and then you'll get there. And so if you're on that edge, for sure, reach out to us. We'd love to feature your channel. And or if you're not, if you just have a nice arcade-related channel and would like some free advertising for it, send us an email, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We'd love to help you out with that. And then, Tim, we have our contact information. We've got our email at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, questions@arcaderepairtips.com. If you put live show on the subject, you will get mentioned on the show. Otherwise, we will just answer it whenever we get around to it. But questions@arcaderepairtips.com is the primary way to get a hold of us, so be sure to send an email there if you are so inclined. Tim, we have our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com. Obviously, everybody who's watching this right now knows exactly where that is, but you may be listening to this on our question and answer podcast feed or elsewhere. If you would like to see our YouTube channel, make sure that you go to youtube.arcaderepairtips.com and check it out. And comments from the last live show will be covered on the next episode. We try to do that just to make sure that we keep updates and all that good stuff going. Tim, as you know, we always love updates. So
Yes.
if you, those of you guys who send in questions this month, if you do send in your updates, we will feature them next month on the show. And then, Tim, we have our podcast feed that contains our audio live shows, interviews, question and answer podcasts, etc. And you can find that on pretty much any podcast platform, but specifically iTunes at itunes.arcaderepairtips.com, Spotify at spotify.arcaderepairtips.com, Audible at audible.arcaderepairtips.com, or like we said, wherever fine podcasts are found. Tim, we will also put in a shout out to Pocket Cast, which is the podcast platform that I personally use. You can now rate podcast on there. So if you're a Pocket Cast user and you would like to rate our show, please do that. We would love that. That helps us out with the rankings there on Pocket Cast. But you can do the same thing on iTunes or Spotify or Audible just by going to those pages. Quick reminder, though, the audio versions of the live show do not have the after show.
Right.
If you want that, you will need to go to our YouTube page at youtube.arcaderepairtips.com and look up the video for, if you're doing this one, episode 91. And then you can go to the end and see the after show. The after show, for those of you guys who don't know, it's just a show we do after the regular show where we basically cover all topics, and basically it's just me and Tim catching up on what happened this month. So it's me and him just kind of talking about all the things that we have going on. So it's a good way to just unwind. And since the NFL game's on, and if it's going, we'll probably talk about that too. And then, Tim, we have our social media feeds. We have our Facebook page at facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com, and our Twitter/X feed at twitter.arcaderepairtips.com. Still can't bring myself to call it X, Twitter/X, or X/Twitter, I guess. But you can follow us on either one of those. And, Tim, I think we've got the cross-posting working pretty well. So when things are posted on our Facebook page, they should get cross-posted to our X feed, too.
Oh, nice.
So, and it seems to be working pretty decently. If you're on X and you're following us, let me know if you're having trouble, and we'll look at it again. But, again, facebook.arcaderepairtips.com for Facebook, twitter.arcaderepairtips.com for Twitter/X. And then we want to thank Mark for his contributions as well. Always glad to have him on the team. And I think that does it for all of our contact information. So, Tim, with that in mind, what would you like to say before we wrap up this show here?
Well, just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you guys for being in the live chat.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
For contributing. And
Tim, this is a very busy month. I feel like people are getting back on schedules and stuff, so it does seem like we had a little bit lighter turnout. But, man, just thank all you guys who did show up. You guys are awesome. We love having you guys here. So glad that we could answer some of the questions in the live chat, as well as answering, like, Josh's question, who sent it in via email, and he was here to experience that. We always have so much fun with you guys, and we're so glad that when you're here. And even if you miss it, remember, you can go back and watch it later. And we just appreciate you guys being here for the live portion for sure. And then how about any teasers in the after show, Tim? Anything you want to talk about?
well, I'll talk about an upcoming trip, couple movies and stuff, and maybe some predictions on some football and baseball, something like that.
I will talk about why I canceled Netflix after 16 years.
Wow. Okay. Good.
I have
discussion.
had a Netflix account for 16 years. I canceled it this month.
Wow.
Actually, last month.
Interesting.
So I will tell you that. And then, Tim, we have been known to delve into politics, and I hear there's a debate coming up.
Maybe so.
So maybe we'll even talk about
I don't know if it's a guarantee, but there's one's scheduled, right?
Absolutely. So, and then again, movies and things that we've seen, we'll talk about that as well. So, again, we want to thank all you guys for being here. Joe says, for the after show, how bad do I hate myself for investing in Dollar General? Oh, man, Dollar General is not doing too hot, Tim. I don't know if you noticed.
I have not heard, but I wouldn't be surprised. they open too many stores, and boy, it's a...
Tim, I think there's actually a Dollar General opening up in my bathroom.
I wouldn't be surprised. It's like you see a new location going up around Tyler. You think it's going to be a Dollar General? It just seems like they're everywhere.
But right now, even Nvidia, Tim, which was, I mean, at one point had a bigger market cap than Microsoft, is now down.
Right,
so,
but that's what they also said Warren Buffett was buying heavily on.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I don't know. You know, it's
Right.
like I wouldn't count them to stay down too long.
We'll see. We'll talk about investing as well, I guess. And you can
Sure.
catch all of that here in the after show, right after the live show. Give us about 5 or 10 minutes to reset, and we'll be back for that. But if this is your off-ramp, if you're getting off here, we want to thank you again for joining us for the show tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. And remember, you can reach out to us between shows at questions@arcaderepairtips.com. We look forward to being back here next month for the October show, Tim, the Halloween show.
No, okay.
We're going to dress up?
Already?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe. But anyway, we look forward to seeing you then. If you're not, staying tuned for the after show. If you are, we'll see you here in about 5 to 10. But remember, here at Arcade Repair Tips, when you fix the game,
You play the game.
take care, everybody. We'll see you next month, or we'll see you here in about 5 to 10 for the after show. Stay tuned or take off, whatever
Bye.
the case may be. We'll see you. Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Arcade Repair Tips live show. All of our past episodes are available on our website at arcaderepairtips.com or on our YouTube page. This show is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please consult a professional before attempting to repair any coin-operated machines yourself. The preceding program is a Varcade Entertainment production.
Okay, now we're back. Sorry, I did. That's what I get for not turning on the microphone. Everybody can see us, but you can't hear anything. So we can do lip reading sessions. And see how it works
Hey, at least you caught it early.
That's
We're
right.
not halfway through it and somebody going, hey, I can't hear you.
That's exactly right. We are back, and this is the after show. Tim, I thought the regular show went pretty good. Felt like we flew through it, and it may just be because we didn't have as many questions in the live chat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. Hey, that makes it easier on us. More time for an after show.
That's okay.
So, but overall, guys, I hope you guys have had a great month here. August was busy for us. We had the kids going back to school, getting everything ready for that. And Tim, I guess we went to Raw since the last time that we talked. Yeah. So we did. So
another good time.
Yeah, we did. We took the kids. So my sister lives in Round Rock, and they had WWE Raw on, I forget what day it was. It was but it was the week school started. So our kids started on a Wednesday. The Monday of that week, we went down to Austin and we saw Raw. So I took my brother-in-law with us, and me and the kids stayed the whole time. He had to go because it's a Monday. It's tough. The kids were out of school. I took off work, and we went down there inside, and we had a good time. Kids always have a good time. They love going to these events, Tim. They just have a blast. And so, and we watch it all the time. We've been having a blast with it. It's fun because, it's fun to see them kind of react to what's happening and things, and they're really into it right now. Like you said, if we're spending money like on an arcade 1-up or like going to an event of some sort, a lot right now events have kind of been winning out. So concerts or WWE or I think we're gonna go try to see some of the shows at the Cowan. The college here has a center that has like different shows that come through. I think we're gonna do that kind of stuff. I'm not spending a lot of stuff like on home stuff for entertainment. It's been mainly trying to go out, and it's just because we had a time there where we couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think we're trying to go out and do some stuff instead of being at home all the time and doing that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, we can get in kind of a routine. Come home, watch TV, go to bed.
Exactly.
You kind of got to break up the routine some.
For sure. So so our September was good. Our August was good, excuse me, because we did that. We got ready for school. Kids are back in school now. My daughter's actually had a couple days where she wasn't feeling well, and so she was home here and she's playing some catch up with some stuff. But other than that, it's been pretty normal, just back to school stuff. So getting all that back in routine, Tim.
Yeah.
So the Raw trip was kind of our last summer fling, right? Like our summer fling before everything else. So it's good to do that. Good to see my sister too. I got to see her. Yeah. Now my sister left and she went to London to see Taylor Swift.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So like 2 days after we were there, she left to do that. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it was cheaper to fly to London and see Taylor Swift than it was to see her here.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Cheaper to buy a flight.
That
get
is
tickets,
nuts.
Hotel. Yeah.
And get to go to London.
And
so
get to go to
That's pretty
London.
cool.
Right. So she had a good time there. She's actually in town right now, so with my parents. But anyway, so yeah, we're just hanging out. How about you, August?
I got to go to my original birthplace in Hobbs, New Mexico.
Wow.
And I have not been there
I didn't know you were a New Mexican.
I am. I was almost a Mexican. I was pretty far south of, near Carlsbad Caverns.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people know. Hobbs is actually kind of, if you kept going from like Amarillo and you would just kind of run, I think it's a little north of there, but it's barely over the border. So what was tricky was some of my audits were in Texas and some were in New Mexico. Every time I crossed the border, I lost an hour.
Right.
So I had to watch what time it was, and then when I jumped back, I jumped forward or jumped backwards or whatever it was. It was really.
That's where the break between what is it? Mountain
and Central.
Right.
I mean, literally 5 miles down the road, you're in a different time zone.
Right.
So I had to kind of play with that. But what was really interesting is growing up, I don't even remember Hobbs. I was a baby. My dad was in the oil field, so we were all over West Texas and stuff like that at that time. But later on, we went to church in Oklahoma, and our youth pastor was from Hobbs, out of my dad's church. So when I was a preteen and stuff, he lived with us, and we hung out all the time. We played basketball, we did stuff. He was a cool guy. His name is Artie. Well, Artie still lives in Hobbs. Oh, wow. And so I got to have dinner with him and his family and got to have breakfast with him one morning. So that's always fun to kind of see. But the problem was there is no direct flight from Dallas to Hobbs.
Gotcha.
So to get there on a plane, I would have to go from Tyler to Dallas to Denver, Colorado, switch airlines, go back down to Hobbs, and it was going to be like a 13-hour day. Well, I could drive it in 7.5 hours. So I told my boss, hey, I'd just soon drive, be in my car, everything. But it's a really boring drive after Dallas. There's just not much out there. So it was a good trip overall. It was pretty fast and furious. I had a lot of work to do. Didn't really get to see or play anything, and don't really remember. It looks kind of like what I remember. I haven't been there since I was about 10, but it looked like a lot of dirt and tumbleweeds and stuff like you see in the movies.
There you go.
But it was good. So next week, though, I go to Illinois, place I've never been. I'm going to be actually in Mattoon, Illinois, if I'm pronouncing that right. It's kind of near Champaign, Illinois, is where I'm flying into. So if anybody in that area might be something to do, cool, hit me up, let me know.
Did you do anything for Labor Day?
You know, that was after all the travels and stuff, I was just so glad we did nothing on Labor Day. Mm-hmm. Really nothing. I didn't even cook out. I mean, we didn't.
That's unusual for you.
Yeah, it really is. At least I think we actually grilled or something on Saturday, and I had some food left, and we just ate it. We went to the movies, which we'll talk about. A movie I really wanted to see. In fact, I think you put it in the show notes because the one I really wanted to see was Reagan.
Right.
And I really wanted to see because growing up during that time, and I like Dennis Quaid. I think he'll do. Actually, what sold me on the movie was listening to him talk about it. I'll just throw a random fact. This will probably even. It's not in the movie, but this will probably even. He said he wasn't sure if he was going to do the role. And everybody knows if you grew up during that time, even though you're a little younger, John, it would always show Reagan out on his ranch working.
Yep.
So he really wanted to go to the ranch, right? And he did. And he says, you kind of get the spirit of Reagan. You see fence posts that he actually made, and he wasn't really fake like that. How big do you think Reagan's house was there?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, he was shocked to see that it was about 1,100 square feet.
Oh, wow. Tiny.
So, yeah, very small house. He was actually he was a movie star before he was president, but actually a very humble person. He liked to have the ranch. Now, his ranch was huge and sprawling, but the actual house, he even said, he looked at his king-size bed and said it was really two beds that had just been pushed together. It wasn't like overly fancy. This is the president of the United States, even in his later years.
Right.
So I thought that was he said he was when he went there, he just thought, I got to play this guy. And I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah. No, I heard some of the interviews too. I was interested in it, so I may try to check it out as well. I did not get a chance to do that. We did go to the movie theater, though. Did I not talk about Deadpool Wolverine last time?
No, I don't.
Okay, I didn't even put it on the outline. We'll get to that here in a second. Let's get to investing real quick because it's very depressing. Joe, how bad do I hate myself for investing in Dollar General? So during the break, I looked up the chart, and I saw 5 days ago Dollar General was trading at like 128, and now it's trading at 80. That's a big drop.
Yeah.
Goodness, that's a big drop. I was talking to Tim though. We like Dollar General.
Yeah.
You
only lose when you sell, right?
Yeah, exactly. You only lose.
Maybe
when you
it's
sell.
a good time to hang on. I don't know, but I always hold on too long too. You got to know when to cut the cord. And that's Joe in the live chat. Joe, I'm sorry, I've been really busy the last couple of days. Was there some big announcement that they made, like they didn't make earnings or something? If you want to incite us on what happened, caused the dive. I hate that, man. Investing, you expect to go up and down, but boy, those nosedives really can hurt you, especially if you got, 10 or more shares or something. That's a lot of money.
Now, I saw some people that, I don't know if they're necessarily smarter than me, but they were predicting that we may be hitting a little bit of a recession starting tomorrow.
Maybe.
I think that we are seeing that because people are just not spending because people don't have the money to spend. August is an expensive month for us too. I mean, because we have to buy all the school stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you have to buy all the school stuff, that's expensive. And so, and obviously we went to the WWE event, but I'd already bought those tickets a while back. So, so it's an expensive time. If you're not used to spending all that money, then you're really in kind of a tight spot. And so, what are you going to cut back on? You're going to cut back on going out to eat. You're going to cut back on just the groceries you need. And so retail's going to suffer because of that, right? And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of retail outlets suffering. Nvidia, we talked about, Tim, it took a pretty good nosedive as well. I always felt like they were a little overvalued, to be honest. So, so it doesn't surprise me that there's been a little bit of a pullback on them. So I think, though, right now I looked at my portfolio. I am down. I'm still up overall. I should say that.
Okay.
I'm still up overall, but I'm down from what I was. If I would have sold probably 6 months ago, I would be 10% more up than what I am now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm still up overall, so it's hard to complain too much. But if you did just recently buy into something, you may be in a tight spot because we've seen a lot of stocks nosedive over like the last week. So
that's why we haven't talked much about investing, because I've been I told you guys,
trigger shy.
Yeah, just really playing it safe. I've been investing in gold, silver, and stuff that hedges against inflation, because I don't care what anybody says, inflation is still bad.
It is.
It's still bad. And the prices, I know somebody was complaining, they said that here in Tyler that they had to pay, I think it's $6 again for eggs. Eggs have went back up.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I thought we were past that point. I thought eggs had kind of came back down.
Gas is up for sure. We've noticed that. We got up to almost $3. Almost.
Yeah.
We were close. I think it's come back down now, thankfully. But still, gas is high right now. And a lot of this is, there's a lot of uncertainty going into the election, like we were talking about, Tim.
I think
And with that uncertainty, the market doesn't like uncertainty at all. And so that's always going to cause issues. And then when you have uncertainty, plus you have people pulling back spending, you have two things that are really bad for the economy: uncertainty and people pulling back from spending money. And when you have two things, Tim, well, that's just going to send things in.
Right, and it's not like we're saving a ton. It's one thing to pull back and put it in an account and let it draw interest.
Right.
We're like, no, we're just shifting the dollars, like you said.
Right.
We're still doing something that we might want to do, but we might give, in order to go out and eat that nice meal, we might not go out. That might be the one time we go out for the month instead of going out every week or something, So we're shifting and doing, and I tell people all the time, I don't know, and I know everybody's if I don't feel like we're struggling, but it sure is a lot harder than it was.
Yeah.
And so
we talked about that last show, that we look around and I see a lot of people struggling.
I do.
Like a lot of friends. I have a lot of people who I know that are tight right now. You can see it. It's not there's no
When I pulled up to the Dollar Tree and I saw a Porsche, a Mercedes, and a BMW, and I'm going, you know what? But I don't blame them. They realize too, hey, to keep this Porsche, I'm gonna have to cut back. As what's funny is I do this Coke thing for work, and my boss told me, go buy a 12-pack of Cokes. And what I do is, before I go and test a machine, the night before, I look like a scientist. I have all these beakers and stuff. I'm supposed to use one can and calibrate my tools so that it's ready to go the next morning.
Right.
So she told me buy a 12-pack of Cokes. I'm like, okay, and use your company card. So I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. I had no idea. I have not bought, we don't drink much sodas. And if we do, occasionally we'll buy like some on sale. But I was like, the girl's like, that'll be $10.83 or something. I'm like, what did you say? And even though it wasn't my money, I was just like, did you just say $10 for one? I got one 12-pack. I didn't get a case or nothing, So I was just, it's just...
Hey, you got to be going to the Dollar Tree and shopping those deals.
They
got the 3 for $12 sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to get on the 3 for $12.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But, so either that or I'm just, maybe I'm glad I'm drinking more water and other things. But it's good to enjoy sometimes. But, boy, that's... reality was just kind of hit me. I was like, I had no idea. If she would have said $5 or something, I'd be like, okay. But she said $10. I'm like thinking, how many of them do you think I rang up? I just had one.
Right.
And even though technically it wasn't my money, I felt bad because I'm like, I told my boss, I'm sorry. I would have gone to Dollar General or Dollar Tree or something. I didn't realize that I went to Brookshire's, but I was like, I didn't realize that I probably went to the highest place in town. But then I looked around. No, that was kind of the going rate. I was
$8.
shocked.
About $8 for a 12-pack is like
I
retail.
was shocked.
Now.
Yeah, I was shocked.
Joe says Reagan really drove a World War II Jeep and was willing to cut trees, etc. Yeah,
I saw that, and I think that'll be part of the movie. Like I said, outside of politics, I just like when you grew up during that time. I remember the speech. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And the stuff. And so I'm hoping that it won't just be political, and I don't think they meant for it to be. It's more about his life. In fact, it's kind of a love story, a lot about him and Nancy, and how he really loved his wife, and how he kind of was good. And then it talks about him getting shot and all that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it, although it may be another week. I should mention that we were going to see it, and you know how you pick your seats now. And we're the world's worst about doing it ahead of time. We just get there and go, what seat you got? We'll take this one, that one. It was full. So Dawn was like, would you go see a different movie? And I'm like, yeah, right now I don't want to wait another hour to the next show. And so she talked me into going to see It Ends With Us. Now, granted, I had no idea what this movie was about. And I just kind of looking at the picture and stuff. In my mind, I'm thinking, is this some kind of 50 grades of shades of gray or something? I'm like, what's my wife trying to get me to see? I thought it was going to kind of be this steamy movie. It's not. In fact, I would highly recommend that you do watch it with your wives or significant others, or even yourself. It really is about domestic abuse and stuff, and it's kind of eye-opening and stuff. And I at the end, the fact, what's really cool is, and I'll leave this teaser for you, John. When they come out, you know why it's called It Ends With Us.
Okay.
That's a line she says, it ends with us.
Okay.
And when she says that, I was just like, oh man, it was really good. And so I think you'll like it. And I know your wife will like it. And to be honest, the sex scenes and stuff are real light. Like, it kind of cuts away. Like the old TV show, you know what's going on, but here we're showing the sunset or something, they were really tame, and it's just a good movie. So I would highly recommend that you see that. And kind of surprising to me, not my style, kind of, I'd rather been seeing Wolverine, X-Men or something, or Star Wars or something, Reagan, something. I like guy movies. We also saw the movie, what's it called? It's a new Christian movie with the black kid. Have you seen it? Somebody in the chat room help me out here. That was a good movie.
Was it Angel Studios? Or?
No, it was by the two brothers that did War Room.
Oh.
And Fireproof.
Yeah.
Okay. They're two brothers, and
right.
What's funny is, we'll just be plain spoken here, not like it's anything different than we normally are. But two white guys are writing this about this black family, but I think they did it really well. I don't, like I said, I think you have to be careful when you're trying to direct something that's different than your lifestyle and bringing up. And there were several times throughout the movie that people clapped out loud. You ever been in that kind of theater atmosphere where it was really good, some really good acting, and about a young troubled teen and a guy who mentors him and hires him and basically mentors him, and eventually, he has him halfway running his company. And it's a good movie. I'll think of the name here in a minute.
Okay.
I'm just having a brain fart.
Anything else?
That's all that we've seen at the movies.
Okay. We'll cover movies. We'll come back to sports since we're in transition. So I did see Deadpool and Wolverine since the last time we got together. I went to the theater and saw it.
Look up this movie.
And it was good. It was really fun. If you like Marvel movies, man, it's a Marvel movie, but it's got that Deadpool over the top violence and language and everything else to it. And it's actually probably more tame than the other two. So if you've seen the first two, I would say this is a bit maybe more tame. It's still very over the top violent and things, but Tim, just keep making Deadpool movies with Ryan Reynolds, and I'm going to keep going to them. So they're entertaining, they're fun. So I thought it was good, really enjoyed it, and again, make sure not for kids, right? Like
Right.
take 17 and older for sure, like rated R for sure. So just make sure that you're not taking little kids to it. But if you're an adult and you enjoy the fourth wall breaking kind of humor that Deadpool is, and man, Tim, I can't tell you how big a fan I am of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I will love that man forever because of the way he portrays Wolverine on screen, and he does a fantastic job in this. Golly, man, talking about a guy who's dedicated to his art, boy. So Hugh Jackman's awesome. Can't say enough about it. So yeah, if you're at all Marvel inclined, you need to see Deadpool and Wolverine. Tim, I saw a movie that you recommended, Twisters.
Okay.
And I've seen it twice now because I watched it by myself and I liked it. And I told my wife, I'm like, you need to watch it too. So I watched it again with her, and both times it was very good. It is a good movie. Really well done.
Especially when you get into sequels, especially one that hadn't been done in forever.
Right.
It was like when Tron redid. You're like,
Yeah.
And I don't think it disappointed, but at the same time, I was really impressed with it. I'm still looking up this movie because I think you need to go see it.
You go ahead. But yeah, Twisters was really good. I enjoyed it. So Tim recommended that last time, that he said it was really good. And I liked it too, man. It just tells a really good story. I kind of want to call it inverse Twister because it's kind of almost backwards from like the original in the fact like she kind of works. I know at first she kind of works for like the college, and then later on, I don't want to get too many spoilers, she kind of works for the rich guys. Whereas before they kind of work for the college and they're going against the rich guys.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like inverse Twister, if you will, but Twisters was really good and really well done. Special effects were awesome, I thought. Like, everything is very good. Really well done. Highly recommend it. Tim, there's a movie my kids cannot stop watching.
Oh.
And that is Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Okay.
Okay, so have you heard this?
No, I've not heard of that one.
This has the guy from, what's the thing? He was in Shazam and a whole bunch of other stuff. Why can't I think of his name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
Right?
That sounds right.
Something like that?
I would say yes.
So it's got him in it. He plays the role. He plays this kid named Harold, or kind of like an innocent adult, I guess, named Harold, who has a purple crayon that can draw anything and it comes to life.
Nice.
Okay? And that's the whole premise of the movie. And then there's a bad guy that wants to get the crayon, right? And all this kind of stuff. I mean, very basic, but it's really good. We saw the previews, and the previews made it look scarier than what it really is. So we didn't go see it in the theater because of that. But ever since we got it for home, they've been watching it nonstop. So, I mean, and it's creative because he draws this stuff, right? And it comes to life.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of creativity
like
to
Simon
it.
And the
right.
back in Sesame Street
Right,
days.
exactly. So, it's really cool, and I think it's really well done for a kids movie. And there's been a lot of good kids movies this year, I should say that. But Harold and the Purple Crayon is one of our favorites now. Tim, I watched Jackpot.
Okay.
The one with John Cena.
Oh yeah, I've seen it's on
Prime.
Prime, yeah.
Can I give you the outline of what it is? Okay, so in Los Angeles, like 20 years from now, they have this lot. Oh, there's Taylor Swift again, Tim. They have this lottery where basically what it is that everybody enters the lottery, and then someone gets picked. Well, if you get picked, you don't automatically win. You have to survive for 24 hours with everybody else trying to kill you to win. Okay. And if somebody kills you, they get the jackpot.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that is the whole premise of this movie, okay?
Yeah.
So this woman who has no clue ends up winning the jackpot accidentally, and she's got all these people coming after her. Well, John Cena runs a protection service for people who win the lottery, and so he goes and offers his services to protect said woman for 24 hours if he gets a certain percentage of her winnings. Right? Okay, you get that?
Yeah.
So that's the whole premise of the movie.
Do you like it?
It's over-the-top violent, not as bad as Deadpool Wolverine, and it's super ridiculous. Yeah. And it's only in California, so you can kind of see how it'd be realistic that way. But, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I thought it was a fun movie. It does not take itself seriously at all, and it's just to me, it's very, very silly. And here's the thing, people can't shoot you. Guns are not allowed.
Okay.
But every other way is allowed.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah. So it's very interesting. If you just want something kind of crazy to watch, like you're in a crazy
kind of like
mood.
a Hunger Games versus...
Right, exactly.
Right.
It's just really weird, but, I dug it. I liked it. I wouldn't say go out of your way to see it, but if you're bored and you don't have anything else to watch, put Jackpot on your list.
What is the movie with the girl, Jennifer Lawrence, and she plays this part where they're on a spaceship? And have you seen this?
Yes, I vaguely remember. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like Passengers.
Passengers, yes. And it's got Chris, what's his name on it, or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
I have
you seen Passengers?
Yes.
I did watch that the other night, and my daughter was like, that was so stupid. And anytime my daughter says it's stupid, it means I'll probably like it. So I did, and I really liked it. I was like, that was a good...
I like Passengers.
That was a good... I liked the idea. I was like, This is kind of a cool idea, because, what would you do?
Don't they all go to sleep, and then they wake up, right?
He wakes up.
Right, he wakes up.
For a whole year.
Right. And
he sees her in her pod, and he's like, he likes her.
Up.
Yeah, he's watching videos about her and gets to know her and really likes her. And then he doesn't tell her forever that I woke you up.
Right,
exactly.
And
so, anyway, I thought that was I like if you just want to watch something that's free on Amazon. I thought that was pretty good.
It's been a while, and I had totally forgotten about that movie.
I just watched it the other night, when you said something that triggered that, I remember that.
So I watched an older movie that's been out a while on Hulu called Kid 90, and it had to do with... Kid 90 is about Soleil Moon Frye, who played Punky Brewster.
Okay.
It's really a documentary about her life. So
that would be interesting, I bet.
And so here's the thing. When she was... Her entire life, even before Punky Brewster, she carried a camcorder around.
Oh.
So she has clips, and guess what? She hung out with other celebrities. Like other celebrities you would know.
Right.
And so what she does through this is she takes this camcorder footage, she goes through her life, like from the time before Punky Brewster, through Punky Brewster, all the way up, and then all these different, and then she does interviews with the celebrities that are in these camcorder videos that she's hanging out with, showing them the camcorder. So it's kind of like it's very nostalgic, right? It's a trip through kind of like the late 80s, early 90s of her life and what was going on in her life at that time. And it's very fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating. It's a documentary. It's more than a movie. It's more of a documentary on her. But the thing is that there's so many other celebrities that she was involved with that you're going to see throughout the movie. Like, because she goes and interviews them saying, oh, we were in a relationship, or I hung out with these 5 guys, like Kiefer Sutherland or whatever. I was hanging out with these guys, I mean, and so like she grew up with all of these younger celebrities. They all kind of grew up together, and so it's just fascinating. I mean, it's just
that was her friends,
right? Exactly. Like you would hang out with her friends. Yeah, her friends were other celebrities,
which probably were really popular people, and to her they were just her friends,
right? And so like there's videos of her just hanging out with there's a video of her with just Leonardo DiCaprio, like just hanging out. You know what I'm saying? When he was on Growing Pains. I mean, stuff like that. It's super fascinating. And, but it just kind of talks about, and then she has like basically letters and diary entries that she also reads about her life. So it's really, like I said, just a documentary about like her childhood and how and the thing is she was around famous people. She had a very celebrity childhood, but her childhood was pretty normal, even with all that. I mean, that's the thing. Because when she wasn't doing the filming and stuff, she's just hanging out like a kid, And so it was really, really interesting.
Well, I'd like to talk about a documentary that I watched, and then we'll segue in it because it was on Netflix. You're going to tell us why you have turned off Netflix.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe after you talk, it may be one of the last shows I watched, so I'll talk about it.
Oh, okay.
I watched Sons of Sam.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen this documentary, or at least
I've
about
heard
it? You know what the Son of Sam murders are and stuff.
These are the posers or pretenders, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that it?
So really basically what it is back in the 70s, they had all these random serial killer, and he wrote letters to the police, and they evaded capture for months. He would just go and shoot random people. That's what it's always hard to catch somebody that has no connection to the person he's killing, right? Sure. Well, he got arrested. They finally caught him, and it was a good job on the police work. But one of the a guy who wasn't even an investigative reporter, but that's kind of what he become. He was like, there's no way he did all of these murders.
Right.
And so what was interesting, one of the first things when they arrested David Berkowitz, they were like, he didn't look anything like the sketches.
Right. And
some people are going, that dude shot me, and I looked at him. That's not him.
Right.
And he's like admitting, no, I shot and killed some people. And then they go, you killed this person? He goes, no, I didn't kill them. And so all of a sudden they realized that the police kind of like, oh, we got the killer. Yay, it's safe. Everybody go back out and play. And this guy keeps telling them, no, there's more than one killer. And they're like, no, we got him. Good job, everybody. And throw it, but don't be sure and vote, it's election year.
Right.
And they didn't really pursue it. And he then all of a sudden becomes obsessed. Like, can't sleep at night for like 20-something years till he dies.
Right.
And no spoiler there. Till he dies is obsessed with this. Sons of Sam, that's why it's called. And he goes, so it's a very interesting documentary, especially if you like those crime kind of deals. Basically, that it was actually a satanic cult that this guy just happened to kind of casually be involved in, but they were the 44 caliber shootings and stuff. If y'all remember that kind of stuff, of course you weren't even thought of then, John. And I was little,
right.
But I remember later on, people would say, "Oh, Son of Sam's going to get you" or something, And it really was probably a really scary, weird time, that these people were getting killed. So It was interesting. But that leads me up to, since I watched it on Netflix, why after 16 years you said no more? I'm not.
Yeah. So let me get 2 more shows in there. Tales from the Territories, which is a wrestling one done by The Rock. That's really good. It's on Vice. You can watch it on Vice's website. And then Only Murders in the Building is back. I'm watching that. It's good so far. So let's talk about Netflix real quick. So I have had Netflix since 2008, Tim.
Okay.
2008.
Long time.
Okay, so that's 16 years, right? I figured it out. So why am I canceling? I have been on the basic plan of Netflix.
Is it price?
So I've been on the basic plan of Netflix since they debuted it, which is where you get 720p, 1 screen at a time, and no commercials. Okay?
Right.
They are discontinuing that plan.
Okay.
And so they either want me to bump up to so that plan has gone up steadily. It started out at $9 a month.
Right.
Went up to like $12 a month.
Right.
So now they want you to either jump up to the $15.49 plan.
I think we paid $16, yeah.
Okay, which is probably the one you're on. Or to go down to the $7 ad plan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they did away with my plan.
Oh,
that I
okay.
have been on since the beginning. So
they didn't grandfather you in or nothing.
They had been grandfathering us in because that plan was no longer around. So
Okay.
they've been grandfathering us in, but now they've decided we're just going to kick everybody off that plan. So they wanted me to move down to the ad plan. Like they sent me an email saying, hey, we're going to automatically move you down to the ad plan. So I just went ahead and canceled. And I'm not the only one. If you look on Reddit, there's an entire thread of people who are just in my boat, who are only holding on to that because you can no longer get our plan anymore. Well, now that plan's gone, boom, gone.
Well, it just seems natural that if you've been a loyal person for so long, then...
And here's the thing. We have a lot of subscription services already. We got Hulu. I got Disney Plus. I got Peacock. I got Amazon Prime. I got... we got...
You're not out of options.
I got cable
stuff.
still. I still have cable.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
You really are paying.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I get a good deal on my cable. But anyway, So, I've got stuff to watch, right? It's not like I'm out anything. I'm going to subscribe to Netflix when something I want to watch comes back. And until
Have to be something really, really pulling on you.
And I'm definitely holding out until their next earnings report.
Okay.
Because I want them to hurt.
Right.
They need to bring the prices down.
I think
sorry.
It is getting a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
For a while there.
Bring my plan back and I'll come back.
They had some really good original shows and a lot of stuff. And but now it seems to slow, but the price keeps going up, and I'm like, we're not getting. Doesn't seem like we're quite getting the value that we.
Now here's the thing: in January,
maybe not far behind you.
WWE Raw is moving to Netflix.
Yeah, that'll be tough.
Yeah, so I might have to do it then. But until then.
Right, save that money.
Exactly. So let's go sports real quick. The MLB season's wrapping up. The Rangers aren't looking so hot. They can make a run. It's possible.
They're streaky.
Possible.
A little streaky.
But a miracle would have to happen. It's probably going to be the Astros, unfortunately, in our division.
Yeah.
So it's wrapping up. Yankees are looking good. Obviously the Dodgers. It's going to be, probably you're saying a lot. I don't know. The Royals may make it in. That'd be pretty interesting. So we'll just see what happens. Baltimore will make it in probably somehow. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the MLB season. NFL season starts tonight. We mentioned that. So we've already talked about that. Tim, any predictions for Cowboys-Browns?
The Cowboys should win that game.
Okay.
But you never know about you never know who's going to show up.
Sure.
When we basically have the same team we had last year. We didn't really gain a whole lot, but we did get Ezekiel Elliott back.
Do you think they'll get a deal done with Dak?
And I do think that'll happen. Okay. I don't think that
they got the CD deal done.
Yeah.
So so I think it'll happen. I think
so.
I heard last I heard they were just arguing over the years. It wasn't the money.
Yeah, I don't think so. And so I think they'll do pretty good. Now we're talking about college football. Last night I started watching a documentary on the sign stealing.
Oh, I saw that one.
And let me tell you guys something. That is an interesting documentary. I can't wait to watch the rest of it tonight. Okay. That really makes you think. I mean, the dude really only did what he was asked to do.
Right.
And that guy was kind of a savant at it.
Oh.
And so all he really did was, the problem was, if he would have just done it at the games, but he kind of got ahead. Like what really was.
We're getting some flashing in the video.
Yeah, what was really. I want
to fix that for next episode.
It wasn't corrupt that he was sealing signs, because if you watch the other team and you can figure out, hey, he just said a sign for pass.
Right.
I did not realize this. Do you know they have at least 8 people on the other team giving signs so that they throw you off?
No, I thought I
you don't know who is, and he can figure it out. Who he's like the one the players are looking at.
Yeah,
that's the guy, right?
Sure.
He's like, it ain't rocket there.
Right.
But then he took over 3,000 different signs, made him a database. He would memorize it. He was like, that's pass. We're going pass. We're going power right, and he would call it every time.
Wow.
And to be honest, I think it was helping the team do good. The problem was when he started, like, it was like a network of these guys who could do this, and they're going and scouting the next team, and they're going ahead, and they're videoing the game, the whole game. Well, you can't sit at a college football game and video the whole game. That's illegal.
Right.
You can take a clip or TikTok kind of version of it, or a touchdown. We do that when we go see somebody play, but... Sure. You can't video the whole game.
But if you just video one person, are you videoing the whole game?
That's where it gets a little tricky. It's like he's videoing the sign people and what they're doing.
The game. He ain't got the game.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also like he's not doing it live. It kind of takes it into a different category. And I think it's interesting and would be good for a discussion sometimes. If you've seen it, I'd like to. So you can't have Netflix now,
what they need to do
but
then is just go to what they do in MLB now with the pitch. What's the thing that they have? The little pitch comp.
Yeah,
that's what they have now in MLB. They have like a little thing that's in their hat.
Well,
and the catcher has a little earpiece.
Exactly. What they need to do is in the pros they have they don't give signals. Right, they're not over there. I mean, they do a little bit of signals. But it's nothing. Nobody. They're like they probably know what he's doing. Exactly. Like, they're in a blitz or whatever. Right. But in college, they do not have that.
Yeah. See, but so
in MLB they probably need to.
As I said, they have the pitch com, and so like the player a lot of times he'll do it behind his back even. He'll just hit the button, and then it goes to the catcher immediately and tells him what it is. So I mean, he knows what's coming, and that's what they've gone to because obviously they had sign stealing scandals.
Yeah.
Too. So, I mean, with the Astros, right? I mean, so we've had that too. So, yeah, they just got it.
I thought it was interesting, though.
Right. Let's see. So, college football stuff is going on, Tim. MLB and NHL are going to start up here next month. So, and I'm looking forward to a good Maverick season after we made the finals last year. So I want to let's win this all. We got Klay Thompson now, Tim.
Yeah, we made some good moves. Yeah. I would say, in fact, we did some pretty strategic moves that I think in some areas that we needed help in. So I think that'll be interesting. Yeah. Go back to college football. Texas looks really good.
They do.
Yeah. So number 3.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma's better than people are giving them credit for,
Agreed.
And I think they're going to be pretty good. They got a transfer guy from Purdue that could be one of the best receivers in the country. First game, he caught 3 touchdown passes in the first half. That's crazy. When you see it too, he's making some catches.
What about that game over in Dublin, Ireland? What was that? Georgia Tech and Florida State? Was that what it was? That was over in Ireland?
Oh, I didn't see it.
That was like the kickoff game.
Yeah, Florida State. This looks horrible.
So but yeah, I think it was that. I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, there's already been some good college football out there. I feel like. So.
Yeah. So I like college football, so I would love to go to a game this year, but I don't know if we'll make it.
One of my friends, they always go to whatever the bowl game is at AT&T because they said the tickets usually aren't hard to get.
No,
there's no way. I mean, most of the time it's teams that are from pretty far away, and the freaking AT&T Stadium holds 100,000 people or something.
Right.
So I mean, it's like there's always going to be extra tickets. No 2 college teams will be able to fill that thing.
Right, unless it's like Oklahoma playing.
Right,
Texas
exactly. It'd have to be
right?
something like that. Right, exactly.
This is not going to happen.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of times they'll go to whatever the bowl game is at AT&T. If you want to just go to a college game, that may be one to go to. So, but yeah, everything else I think is pretty much done. I mean, I already talked a lot about WWE, so I'm not going to talk anymore really about that. But anything else that you got coming up for this month before we head out?
I'll be going to College Station also.
Yep.
Speaking of college football, I'll be there for a couple days in Houston, North Houston, Brenham area. So I'll be in that area. So a little bit of more travel. My travel has definitely picked up again. Lots of new business and lots of new concepts that I'm going to be doing. So it's kind of good times. And we've already announced before I got a grandbaby coming in February. So kind of getting ready. That's not that far away.
Nope.
Lacey's in second trimester, and so baby's doing good, and we're pretty excited about that.
Well, and the good news is that we're going to get you out of here before the game even starts. They just did the national anthem, Tim.
Oh, there we go.
So you can go watch the Ravens and Chiefs right now. Hopefully it'll be a good game. Kick off the NFL season. Hopefully you guys have a great month of September, what's left of it. Hopefully you had a great Labor Day. We look forward to seeing you in October, Tim. And I think let's look at the old calendar here. I always like to do that just to make sure. Ever since I got Windows 11, though, I think like the little calendar thing's not easy to bring up. So that'll be on the 3rd. So that's 4 weeks away.
It's right after the
Right,
first.
that'll be kind of our Halloween show. So we'll talk some Halloween things, I'm sure, and things of that nature. Tim, we're getting close to the end of the year here. About to wrap up some stuff. Got Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas coming up. So hopefully you guys get everything that you need to get done before the holidays get here. Because man, Tim, it gets busy then. So
yeah, it does.
obviously we're getting there'll be a debate on Tuesday night. Is that Tuesday? Thursday.
Tuesday.
It's the 10th.
Yeah.
5 days from today. So yeah, Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday, right? Right?
I can't think that far ahead.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. So and apparently that's the only one scheduled. So we just highly encourage you guys to watch that, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, and just see how they do. I'm curious. Man, I'm curious to see. So
I really, so many of my people talk personalities. Oh, Trump is brash, or Kamala seems kind of like an airhead, or whatever. I really want to let's get down to issues. It's kind of like, what are you going to do to fix it?
Right.
That's what I want to hear from both sides of the aisle. I want to hear, look, if you're going to sit up there and say everything's fine, you ain't my person. I think everybody's coming to realization it's not fine. What's your plan to fix it? And I don't care. Honestly, I don't care about much else. And I think that too many people are just wrapped up in, I like them or I don't like them, or it's kind of like it was like when Biden was running. People weren't voting for Biden; they just weren't voting for Trump.
right.
And I think a lot of people on the other side are like, I don't want to vote for Kamala. So whoever's running against her, that's who I'm voting for. And I really wish that we would get out of that. Make sure whoever you're voting for, there needs to be a reason and some hope that whoever gets the presidency can do something. And we got a lot of stuff worldwide that we need to be concerned about.
And let me also say this. If you're only listening to, like, 2 news sources, expand your news sources, please. Like,
right.
It's good when I want both sides.
Yeah.
And so find outlets that you trust that tell you both sides. Because here's the thing. You get both sides. You can determine where you are in the middle and, like, say, okay, well, who do I think is right? Who do I think is wrong? But at least if you're getting both sides, you can make an educated decision. I feel like too many of us either just listen to one news outlet or listen to one website or whatever it is. Just open yourself up to multiple sides. That's all I'm saying. If you do that, I think you'll be better off. You'll be better informed, which will help you hopefully make a better decision. So, that's really what it comes down to. So, but
I like to watch. I'll switch from one channel to the other. I like to hear, let's say Trump is giving a speech or the convention. I like to hear how CNN was looking at it versus how Fox News was looking at it versus MSNBC or something. And, it's like, you're right. And occasionally, even if it's something I don't totally agree with, they'll say something I'm like, I haven't really looked at it that way.
Right.
And, I'm not really looking at it from all sides, Or immigration is a great topic,
Yeah.
It's like, get everybody out, well, it's a little late for that.
Right.
What are we going to do? But we also can't give them $100,000 each
to go buy houses.
And to buy houses
right.
that they can't afford
right.
when they buy. And we got veterans living homeless. So I get it. You know, somewhere there has to be somebody out there has to agree with me. There's got to be I think more people are in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
Than either side wants to admit.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I know people who leave Fox News on all the time. I know people who leave MSNBC on all the time. If you're one of those people who leaves like the same news on all the time, you need to change the channel every so often.
Right.
That's all I'm telling you. So I don't care which one you're watching. You need to be watching. You need to at least change the channel sometimes and see whatever the other side is thinking.
Right.
Because we in order to make an important decision, you need to know how both sides represent. That's my point.
I think so. And I think that's what, especially with younger people, you know, I think we have to teach them. It's, you know, don't just go. Think for yourself. Do the math. Do whatever. Calculate what you think. Mm-hmm. But, you know, also, I don't want to hear somebody just, everything's fine, we're all good. Joe Biden's great. He's in perfect health.
Right.
You know, I go to one network and they're saying, there's nothing wrong with that man. If you think something's wrong with him, there's something wrong with you. And you ought to be ashamed. And, you know, well, no, I looked at him and I watched him. And now, oh, wait, yeah, there is. Sorry, you were right.
Right.
But, you know, that was...
It took a debate for us to all figure that out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was like, you didn't really know this already? I knew that 3 years ago.
Right.
What took you so long? But at any rate, it is what it is. It's kind of interesting, though. I'm more interested in... because it's two opposing views. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a lot of middle ground anymore.
Sure. And
I think that's the way a lot of people are. You know, somebody was saying the other day how she runs a hearing aid business. And she's like, I literally want to retire and get out. I'm tired of people. When they come in and they are just mad and just they'll rant and rave.
I can see that.
And just going crazy. She's like, well, you're there to help them, right? And most problems can easily be fixed. But it's like, for the safety of our employees, if you're going to raise and scream and stomp, this is not how we get things done.
Sure.
That's how we do it today.
Right.
The loudest voice just gets the squeaky wheel, or, you know.
But sometimes you have to do that because nobody will help you.
Maybe
so.
I
mean, you know what I'm saying?
It's a catch-22 either way.
Well, I did see one of my, a good Christian author that I follow on Twitter. It said he wants to meet the person who is having trouble deciding between Kamala and Trump because they think they're both such great choices.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
I think 90% of America is thinking which one is the lesser of whatever, you know, not necessarily evil, but just which one do, you know, there's very few people that are just like you said, you know, who's arguing that, wow, what a tough choice, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just different philosophies. I mean, and, you know, the thing is that I think we can agree on a lot of problems. We talked about this before, but it's always the solutions that we don't agree on. And so, like, you know, I mean, I think we've seen that most politicians agree that there maybe is a problem with immigration. The question is, like, how do you solve that?
Exactly.
So, like,
I know there's a problem. I can see that.
There's different approaches to how to solve that, right? And so, like, and then, like I said, you know, I think we can all say that there is an inflation problem. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do to solve the inflation problem? You know, like, what's the solution to that? And, you know, I mean, some people believe in one side, some people believe in the other. So, you know, the thing that gets me though, and Tim, this is, there's a book, and I don't know if I talked about this last time, but I want to mention this because we're also, we're doing this Bible study too in our small group that we're in, is, it talks about righteous anger. And what I see with both sides is they both think they have righteous anger. Like they're supposed to be mad at that. Right. It's okay for me to be mad at that because, you know, I'm right and they're wrong and that's righteous. You know what I'm saying? Well, if you read the Bible, there's no righteous anger for anybody but God. Mm-hmm. Okay? There's no example in the Bible that you can name of a human taking righteous anger. Okay? Jesus does it, but Jesus is also God.
Right.
God does it, but he's also God. And so the whole principle of the book, which is called Unoffendable, is that you really don't deserve righteous anger. There's no righteous anger that you're entitled to because righteous anger belongs to God. Vengeance does too, by the way. If you're a Christian, vengeance belongs to God.
Right.
And we forget that. But that concept I had never been introduced to in my entire life until I read this book. Now, you can agree with it or not. And I could probably make a case on the other side that's very compelling that you can have righteous anger. Okay, I can make a really compelling case for that. But I want you to just think about it
Right.
And see how
So
that
what
hits
is
you.
your real motivation behind what
Right.
you say and do?
Right.
Do you really want to help that person,
Right.
or do you just like being right?
Right, exactly.
Right.
So,
And,
I mean, that's the thing. We think we're supposed to be angry because our cause is good or whatever it is.
right.
But the thing about it is that God tells us to get rid of our anger. Like in the Bible, it says get rid of it by the time the sun goes down.
Right.
You know, but yet we all want to hold on to it because we think we're right and we think we're righteous. And this is on both sides. And so what I'm telling you is that from a Christian perspective, if that's the way you lean, is that maybe you're not entitled to righteous anger. Maybe you're not
Right.
entitled to anger. I
Well,
mean,
it's
you're going to
kinda
get
like-
angry.
It's
But,
kind of like one side said there are no people coming across the border that are terrorists.
right,
Well, that's stupid.
right.
But then the other side saying everybody's a terrorist. Well, that's dumb too. You know, it's like
So these two groups
percentage-wise,
both
right.
think they're right, and so they
Exactly.
start. I'm more right than you, and you're wrong, and I'm
Right.
fighting you because
so
I'm
we're going to let
so right.
everybody in because they're all just poor people looking for a better life, or we're never going to let anybody else in again.
Right.
You know, so like I said, I believe that most people are in the middle somewhere, which is kind of sad that
Right.
this is where our choices are.
Right.
There's like one saying this and one saying that.
All I was saying with that, though, is that next time you get angry or upset at the other side, I want you to think to yourself, what if your side isn't the right one?
Right.
Are you on God's side? Maybe that's a great question if you're a Christian, obviously.
Right.
But, but your anger, you're really not entitled to that, per se. I mean, God is, but,
And at the end of the day, what good does it do?
Right, exactly.
Like arguing, it's like these keyboard cowboys. We don't even get on some arcade forums because they just
Right.
like to argue and complain.
Underneath anger is always another emotion that's deeper. Have you ever noticed that?
Yes, for
like
sure.
underneath your anger, there is always something else that's really troubling you. And so I did a whole study on anger with the youth group because I teach the Sunday school youth sometimes, and I told them when you react angry, you need to reevaluate yourself and figure out what's causing you to be angry. What's underneath the anger that's causing it? Because a lot of times it could be hurt. It could be trauma. Okay,
Right.
maybe it's a trauma response is the way that you
Right.
react like that. Maybe it's because of the way you were raised. Maybe that's the way your parents reacted, and so you react that way naturally. In the case of politics, maybe your parents were big, I don't know, right or left wingers, and so when they see something on the other side, they get mad, and so because of that, you learn that, and now you get mad when you see that, even though you really you're kind of disassociated from it, but you just saw the behavior and you kind of adopted it. So always see what's underneath your anger to find out what's going on. But the problem with anger is that if we're both angry at each other, we can't have a discussion. So these two sides that Tim were talking about, where all the people who are coming over the border are terrorists and nobody over the border is terrorist, they're both angry at each other, but the problem is that they'll never talk unless they stop being angry.
Right.
And so that's what we have to learn to do. We have to learn to control that and to actually open up lines of discussion and talk. Okay? And the only way we do that is by getting rid of the anger, lowering the temperature, and saying, okay, I'm willing to engage with you and talk about this because I understand you don't agree, but let's talk about it and see what maybe we agree more than we think we do, or maybe we disagree more. I don't know, but let's talk it. Let's talk it through.
And there's nothing wrong with agreeing to disagree, and
Right.
let's find, okay, we can't come to agreement on this. What can we come to agreement
Right.
on?
But that'll never happen as long as we stay angry at each other.
Nah.
That's my point. So lower the temperature. If you're getting angry, if you find yourself watching the news and getting angry about stuff, ask yourself, why am I really angry about
Right.
that? And like I said,
I do better when I don't watch the news some
right,
days.
exactly. And like I said, with righteous anger, the righteous anger that you hold, instead of being angry about, like injustice, for instance, instead of being angry about injustice, do something about
Right.
it. Right. Like, so if you see injustice on the TV, you see children starving over in Africa and it makes you mad. Well, instead of being mad about it,
Right.
do something about
Right.
it, right? Like contribute money to like a mission that's helping feed kids in Africa or whatever. It's like like I said, we think that anger is doing something, but it's not.
No.
Anger doesn't do anything.
Except stressing you
Exactly.
and causing health issues and stuff.
So
and mentally,
let's just all agree
hurting
to
you.
turn down the anger and to engage with each other civilly and peacefully and to talk through. That's the only way we're going to find solutions is by talking through and getting through that way. And so, like I said,
Oh, yes. It's like we talk about, we like the Cowboys because we grew up around it and were raised.
right.
They have given us plenty of reasons to jump ship.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, I have another nephew. I can't be around him. He's such a Cowboy fan. If they're winning,
Right.
he's the nicest guy. If they lose, he can really be a pain to be around.
Right.
And I'm like, it's still just a game at
Right.
the end of the day.
Right.
But he can't control his emotions.
Right.
And I'm like, you take the fun out of it. We should be able, me and you, John likes Texas. I'm from Oklahoma. We like to when it's rivalry time, we know that there's going to be years when you're going to win and when years I'm going to win.
That's right.
That's the beauty of it. And just because we lost last year, doesn't mean we're going to lose this year just because we won last year.
And when it comes to games, like games are
fun.
I tell kids all the time, they're supposed to be fun. So my kids will be playing the Switch and they'll get angry because like something happened. And I'm like, you realize like it's supposed to be fun. If it's not being fun, then don't play it anymore. Right. You know, because it's supposed to be fun. Like, enjoy it. With politics, I know it's not fun, okay, necessarily. It can be stressful. But that should never stop us from engaging and talking with people about... And I love engaging with people who don't agree with me. That's, like, one of my favorite things. Because I don't have the same experience you do, like, when we disagree. And so it's nice to talk to people, find out where they're coming from, and then maybe get a better handle on what they believe so that maybe we can talk about it now and figure out what's going on. So I'm just saying, let's just tone down, everybody just turn down the anger. Mm-hmm. And my other point, you're not entitled to righteous anger. God is. So just give that up right now. Okay, if you see injustice and stuff, instead of being angry about it, let's do something about it.
Right.
That's I'll leave it there.
But by all means, go out and vote.
Yes, absolutely.
And
go vote.
Yeah, do. And at least, you know, I remember people saying, that's not my president. Well, you know, it is your president if you live here. And a lot of people said they were going to move and they never moved. Right. But at the same time, you know, at least if you feel strongly, then vote. Do what do your citizenship.
Right. Don't be angry.
There's not that.
You can vote.
A lot of people don't vote.
Right. Do it. Like, do the things that you can do. If instead of getting angry about it, go campaign for your candidate. The person who you support, go out on the trail and campaign for them. Make sure that you vote. Take 10 friends with you to vote. Yeah. Okay, like do that kind of stuff. Put all that, do away with the anger and do something. Right. You know, anger is not doing something. Being angry at another person is not doing anything.
Make sure they go with you. Don't just take their ballot. Right?
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Do it the right way.
We're out. Okay, y'all watch the rest of this game. We just had kickoff and everything. We'll see you guys in October. Take care, everybody. Night.
Bye-bye.